There is. Jasmine surprises. I know. Many, many moons. All right.
All right, everyone. Hello, there we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is now 3:30, and I would like to call the Personal and Finance Committee meeting to order. I believe before we take the roll, Clerk Torado has some comments to make before we begin our committee meetings this afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the public. To maintain good audio quality for council and yourselves, we will be muting everyone not speaking by default. If you would like to speak during a public portion of the meeting, please submit your request in the chat. Directions to do so are listed. We ask that you provide your full name and residential address, as those are required for all speakers at in-person council meetings. Those wishing to speak must activate their camera, displaying the speaker to be recognized by the chair. Committee member Thomas Morgan, committee member Good Rogers, citizen member Kaz Margoon, committee vice chair White,
Present.
committee chair Niskoski,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. And we do have a quorum. I would like to welcome Kaz, our newest citizen member to the Personal and Finance Committee. So welcome. Our first bill to come before us is Bill number 8-26. This is non-bargaining salary ordinance amendment. And I believe, Mr. Willis, would you like this bill pulled at this time?
Yes, we're requesting that this bill get pulled today, and we will refile for a future meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are going to, that is noted for the record, please, Clerk Torado. So we're going to go ahead and move down to the next bill, 9-26, and this is the 2026 budget transfers. And Mr. Willis, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Well, wait, I want to know, what did we say we're doing with the first one? Because I didn't hear what you
The
said.
first one has been pulled.
Okay, that's what I wanted to.
It'll
Thank
be,
you.
that'll
Okay,
be at the next committee, at the next council meeting.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Bill number 0920-26, budget transfers, a couple items here. $60,000 budget transfer in the police department for building improvements for storage of explosive materials, and a $66,000 budget transfer within a general city fund to cover city hall facility expenses. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Committee members, is there any questions for Mr. Willis? The budget adjustments, there is a spreadsheet attached and it states the rationale for the transfers. If I don't see any questions now, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of Bill 9-26?
At this time, I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against? No one in the chamber?
At this time, I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on Bill 9-26 and bring it back to the committee. Is there any questions from or comments from committee members? Is there any questions or comments from anyone else present? Okay, then I would like to entertain a motion regarding Bill 9-26.
I move that we send to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Clerk Toronto, could you call the roll, please?
Committee Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Committee Member Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kath Marju, Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Bill 9-26 will be sent to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Okay, we'll move along then to Bill 10-26. That's the first quarter 26 additional appropriations. And there is a substitute bill, or was that the substitute? Oh, yeah, I do need a motion to accept this.
Or
Chair, I'd
we-
like to make a motion to accept substitute bill of 1026.
Second?
There's been a motion to accept. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, it's all yours, Mr. Willis.
Bill number 10-26 for budget appropriations across the various funds. Couple to highlight here is out of the motor vehicle highway fund, appropriation of $445,000 for additional road salt. As you know, we've had a pretty bad winter this year, so streets department ran out of salt a while ago, and then there's the need to purchase additional road salt for the remainder of the year. From the local income tax economic development fund, appropriation of 1.9 million for the Kennedy Park project. This is for improvements to those to that park that are being supported with grant proceeds for the federal government. And then from the PSCDA fund, appropriation of $1.1 million to go towards the repayment for project expenses related to the Four Winds Field project being repaid to the redevelopment general fund. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay, committee members, do you have any questions?
I just have one.
Councilmember White?
I just have one in regards to 311 call center. That's additional funds to support the call center or update with technology.
Which
It's Fund 279
is it appropriation for 3,000 or?
for IT Innovation 311 call center. It's for 21,000.
Sorry, there was a split.
Okay.
3,000 of that is for mailing expenses, and then there's an additional 18,000 for the commuters trust program. So those are also supported by outside revenues.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Warner?
Turn the mic on there. There we go. The Century Center, it looks like we got quite a bit there. Are those just utility bills, electric bills that were higher than we anticipated,
No,
expected? Or?
So what happened there, the operations moved under Visit South Bend. So we had removed the budget from them, but by the first of the year, everything had not transferred over to Visit South Bend to actually start paying the expenses. So we went ahead and paid those expenses and we'll be reimbursed from them. So, but we needed to appropriate that spending here.
Okay, so those are additional that will be,
Yeah, correct.
that will be reimbursed for.
Correct.
I think and then I also want just to point out that although we've got $10 million in, new appropriation requests, that most of that is funded by outside funding and now even more, because that was part of the 3.3 million unanticipated expenses. So are there any others on here that will be that'll be also reimbursed?
Want to say there's I guess, yeah, reimbursed. So there's a parks, $150,000 appropriation for the Leaper courts improvements. Those are being funded from outside sources by the U.S. Tennis Association.
So
that was
it's
it.
good to know which is funding that we're getting new grant money in, and so we're spending that grant money or we're getting reimbursed in, and which is funds that were unanticipated and we're truly expending additional general fund dollars on. So thank you.
Actually, I did have a question.
Okay,
Sorry.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan.
Yeah, could you just say a little bit more about that appropriation for downtown South Bend contract? That's to downtown South Bend.
Yeah, so I think this
Yeah.
helps support the visitors experience division within VPA. I can't remember all the exact services that they provide, but this is to help fund the service that they provide for us. I think there may be some bike racks. Then I think there's some subsidies that we provide to downtown South Bend as well. And then also there's this landscaping piece of it as well. Can't remember exactly all the details of the contract, but I can look for it and give you an update.
Do you think you could have that for us at the 7 o'clock meeting?
Sure.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of Bill 10-26?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on Bill 10-26 and bring it back to the committee. Committee members, do you have any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion regarding the bill.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to accept Bill 1026 and send it to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Okay, there has been a motion to accept the substitute Bill 10-26. I believe that goes to the Committee of the Whole. I'm sorry? Mhm. Okay, and it's been duly seconded, so if you could call the roll, please.
Committee Member Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kaz Margoon, Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Niskoski.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Substitute Bill 10-26 will go to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Willis. At this time, there is no more business to come before this committee. Then, so this meeting is adjourned. The next meeting is a Public Works and Property Vacation that starts at 3:55. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just go on. Okay.
Yeah, it was just pronouncing your last name.
So it'll pick you up on the recording and then push to turn on, you'll see the green light.
It's 3:51 up there. I think we go by that clock. Mine too. We still have one other meeting first. This is Public Works and Property Vacation first. Yep. We are a 4:05 start. I like the eagerness though, man. You got your 6 pages of questions ready?
Good afternoon. At this time, Public Works and Property Vacation will come to order. Clerk, do you have something to say?
Just the roll. Committee Member Warner,
Present.
Committee Member Dr. Davis, Citizen Member Abel Gonzalez,
Present.
Committee Vice Chair Niskoski,
Present.
Committee Chair Gooden Rogers,
Present.
4 present.
Okay, so do we have a petitioner in the house? And I think that we also have state your name because one is going to translate, right? Okay. So will you state your name and your address for the record?
Okay, my name is Noemi Ruiz. This is my husband, Ezequiel Ruiz. And we both reside at 901 North Elmer Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46628. And today we're here to ask if we could vacate the alley that is next to our property. The alley obviously is not being used by the public because we've been taking care of it and it has helped the area to be clean and safe. And we would like to make it part of our property so that we can continue to take care of it and keep the neighborhood looking nice. We also want to explain that the fence is already there because in the past we thought that we had finished the process, but it hasn't been finished. So now we want to make sure that everything is done the right way. And we are willing to follow the city requirements and also including the 90-day requirement if it does go through. Thank you for your time.
So at this time, questions to the council from the committee?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chair. I didn't know if Chris had anything to say, but I do have a question.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, after looking, I seen that you wrote a letter, basically saying that you will come into compliance with what it means to vacate that alley there. So you don't want to use that as a driveway, because from what we seen, it looked like that was a driveway at one point. So you're good with just eliminating that and then putting in the curb there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then I have a question too. I was looking at the petition. So what did you look at? Did you just talk to businesses or did you talk to anyone else in the neighborhood? 'Cause-
Yes, some of the neighbors, but most of them, most of the properties around are houses, rental properties. But the actual owners, I do have communication with at least the owner in front and one of the side that we did let them know what we had wanted to do.
Okay, at this time, then we'll open it up to the public.
I'd like
Oh,
to
I'm sorry,
hear
one more.
from staff, anything to add regarding the petition, departmental recommendations?
Good afternoon, Council Member Chris Dressel with Community Investment with offices on the fifth floor of this building. The only thing I would add is the petitioner did note and they still have intention to expand their garage and or home, and that would occupy the current right of way. So that's part of sort of the importance of their request in doing that now. So.
Thank you. And I just kind of note for the record, they own both lots on both sides of the alley. So it's basically this runs right through the middle of their property and it would be split between those two parcels, correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll open it up for public. Wait, any more from the committee? Okay, we'll open it up to public.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in favor of the bill or online? I do not see any members of the public wishing to speak in favor of the bill at this time. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in opposition? I do not see any members of the public wishing to speak in opposition.
Okay, so we're back to the committee. Any more questions?
I'd like to make a motion to send Bill 7-26 to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Committee Member Warner,
Aye.
Citizen Member Abel Gonzalez,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Niskoski,
Aye.
Committee Chair Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
4 ayes.
Thank you. Then at this time, this committee is dismissed.
Next committee will be community investment. It'll start at 4:05. It's just now 4:01 according to our room clock. We'll go by that. So we've got a few minutes. Thank you. I'm gonna push the button there. Okay, we'll also get the Community Investment Committee started. I will take roll call. Councilmember White,
Present.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers, Councilmember Bolden Simpson. Not have Councilmember Bolden Simpson yet. Citizen Member Gripe here and Citizen Member Upton here. And with that, we'll move on to the bills. We'll start with Bill number 1126 and Bill number 2610. We'll hear those jointly and we'll require separate motions. I'm going to take a second. I imagine you'll cover some of this, but just a bit of background for our citizen members and community folks and media and anybody online. So, over the last 4 years or so, we've been very fortunate. The staff have worked very hard with developers to get low-income housing tax credit awards. We've gotten 7 of those in the last 4 to 5 years after kind of a long drought. We got 3 in November. One of those was the KCG project across from McDonald's on Main Street. The other one is the project out by the new day intake center that South Bend Heritage is doing. That name escapes me. Tri-Day project. And then the third is this Heritage Trails project down across from the movie theater on the south side. I know staff have worked very hard on these projects, done everything they can to maximize points. It's all kind of a merit-based point system selection. We're very proud of that fact. I want to thank and congratulate the staff on that. And then also I'm going to just take a second and congratulate Mr. Molnar on being promoted to Deputy at Community Investment. We now got one of the top 2 positions and now we're just waiting to find a director. So congratulations, Joe. It's very well deserved. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Glavish. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, council member. Just to note that Bill 1126 is a substitute.
It is a substitute. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to accept substitute bill number 1126.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to accept the substitute. All those in favor of that motion accepting the substitute bill as amended at this time, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amended bill is accepted. Thank you, Mr. Glavish.
Thank you. Committee members, I'm going to present to you something that's unique and new for the city of South Bend. Typically, we support development projects through tax abatements. In this case, we've worked with a developer and we're providing city support through a regime called payment in lieu of taxes, which is a pilot. I'll walk through kind of what is the background, the state code that provides the authority for the city to do this, kind of lay out the project, what it means in terms of the city support and all the numbers associated with it. But it's really exciting because it's very similar to a tax abatement. But the big difference is that establishes what the property owner will pay, as opposed to tax abatements, which when we present numbers to you, they're just estimates. And you don't know what's actually going to be paid until the building's assessments are done. So the first bill that we'll present to the council and ask for your support on is an ordinance that would establish a pilot for a new project called Heritage Trails, which is a project, low-income tax credit project, as Councilmember Warner had mentioned, on the south side, which is the large vacant lot that's north of the AMC Theater that's down there. The city's able to do a pilot for projects like this because state code allows it. It allows us to enter into an agreement that basically says over a certain number of years, this property owner will pay this amount of taxes each year. Now, the difference is that instead of taxes being paid, to the county as we normally do, these taxes would be paid directly to the city. So the city would be sending basically the property owner a tax bill. They would pay the city directly. And what happens is those funds that the city now receives through this pilot agreement has to be dedicated to support affordable housing for the future. As of right now, if we were to do a tax abatement, they would pay their taxes as normal and it would go into the general fund. But in this case, the pilot clarifies that these funds that the city is receiving have to be used to support affordable housing. So getting specifics, this is the project site that I had mentioned. So prime for development, it had been vacant for a long time. When the developer approached us with a proposal that they would purchase the property and were applying for low income tax credits, we did work through with them from the very beginning. It's been a partnership from the beginning. And this is a solution, a way to provide city support that we're comfortable presenting to you. Just, kind of a rendering of what the buildings might look like. Project is basically going to be 180 units over, I believe, 3 buildings. But it's Virgin Held is the developer, and they're an Indianapolis-based developer that specializes in multifamily developments. They do very high quality work. So it's exciting that the city gets to partner with them. The features of a pilot, I kind of covered this a little bit, in terms of what the pilot means. So, the big differentiation between this and a tax abatement is we're establishing what the tax payment is actually going to be. So now the project summary. So this is an affordable residential development. They had received a low income tax credit award in November 2025. All of the units in this development will be dedicated for households earning at or below 60% of the area median income. I've included what those income thresholds are on the screen for you to be able to understand kind of what does that mean? I mean, we talk about those types of things a lot. What does it mean to be 60% at the 60% AMI threshold? Well, for a 4-person household, that's $52,000 roughly in annual income. Virgin Held is here. They'll talk a little bit more about the project. Cole has a presentation to kind of walk you through a little bit in more detail. I really want to touch upon what is the ordinance? What are we asking council to support here? So we're asking council to support this ordinance that establishes the amount and the schedule for when they're going to be paying their taxes. So it's going to be spread over 15 years. I'll show the tax numbers later, but basically in year 1 of this pilot program, they would pay $36,000 in taxes, and then every year they'll pay 3% more. The pilot agreement would terminate after 15 years, and then they would pay full taxes at that point. The ordinance approves what's called the form of the pilot agreement. So this is basically the unsigned version of the agreement. So we're asking council to say, this agreement looks good. Please, staff, go ahead and finalize it. The city you can sign it on the city's behalf, and we authorize you to go ahead and formalize everything there. That was the reason for the substitute amendment. There was one very small provision. I think it was section 5.1 that just needed to be updated, and that's the reason there was a substitute bill as opposed to what was submitted to council for first reading. The ordinance basically directs the property owner to take certain actions, like make sure that they're recording the agreement properly with the county authorities. It makes sure that the county knows that they're not going to be sending them a tax bill that now under a pilot agreement, the city is going to be doing that. Now, moving specifically to the agreement that we would strike with Virgin Held, as I mentioned, it establishes certain things related to the project. It establishes, that all of the housing units would be income qualified at 60% or lower of the area median income. It would require the property owner to complete all of the steps that they need to take for the LIHTC award, including signing what's called an extended use agreement, which is basically the agreement between the developer and the state, and provides them the ability to move forward with receiving the LIHTC award. Also, the pilot makes clear that this agreement does not preclude or allow the developer to do things that they normally wouldn't otherwise have to do. For example, it treats property taxes through this regime the same as it would any other property tax. The city reserves all the rights to, go after property taxes if they're delinquent as if it was any other entity. There's no restrictions on the city's abilities, through state code. And state code clarifies, and the agreement clarifies that, the city is maintaining those rights. And it also, the ordinance also, makes sure that the funds are going into the Affordable Housing Fund that is dedicated to supporting future affordable housing. So now getting to the numbers, these are very similar to tax abatements. So when we do tax abatements, what we do is we come with our best estimate in terms of, what are the tax liabilities going to be in the future? So we look at what is the current parcel. So this is a vacant parcel. The parcel brings in $5,800 a year. So, okay, that's our base. We know that's something that we know. When we typically do tax abatements, we look at the project and we try our best to guess what is going to be the future liability. Often that's like 60%. The assessed value is a good estimate to be 60% of the hard dollar cost. So a lot of times when we present that, that's what we present. When we are dealing with low income tax credit projects, state code establishes a different mechanism for determining the assessed value. So under these mechanisms, we've determined that once the project is complete, if there was no incentives, no benefits, that this project would be paying $330,000 a year in annual taxes. So we now have our estimate in terms of what we think tax revenue could be over that extended period of time. And then at that point, we figured out, what would be the city incentive. So our city, we wanted to make sure that this project happens. As Councilmember Warner had pointed out, that as these developers go through the low income tax credit application process, they get points. One of the things that's kind of a requirement through this process is that the municipality's support is 10%. So now we know that we have to figure out what our city support is going to be. This is a $47.5 million project. City has to, come in at 10%. So now we have an estimate for what our future taxes are going to be. And we have an idea now how we can figure out what the city incentive, what the city support is going to be. Because it's similar to a tax abatement, I wanted to kind of show you some of the same things that you're familiar with in terms of, if this lot were to sit vacant and nothing were to be done on it, it's only bringing in $5,800 a year. Even with the pilot in place where we're reducing the tax liability, we're still bringing in significantly more than we would be otherwise. And much like a tax abatement, after it expires, and the property owner is required to then pay the full amount of taxes that they normally would. So when this pilot agreement concludes after 15 years, the property owner will be paying, the full amount of taxes like they normally would. Here's kind of the breakdown in terms of every year. So the column that says pilot payment is what we've agreed to. This is in both the ordinance and the pilot agreement. So the owner, Burge and Held or Heritage Trails LP, has agreed to pay that amount. So they're paying roughly, going to pay $670,000 over 15-year period. The city support is the estimated tax savings. So you're looking at $4.6 million in estimated tax savings. That is the city support for this project. Often when we do tax abatements, we also do things like tax increment financing to support projects to get that city support amount higher. We don't need to in this case. This is fundamentally really the only form of city support that this project is receiving because we're maximizing the tax savings. And it's important because, it's not an outlay that we're actively seeing. It's not an upfront cost of $4.6 million that we're putting out in support of this project. And then kind of just to conclude in terms of, the city support, we're doing the pilot agreement, which, as you saw, was about $4.6 million in estimated tax savings. We do what's called an SDC waiver, a system development charge. So low-income tax credit projects get a waiver for connecting to city utilities like water. That comes out to be about $270,000. So the agreement and that waiver are the only forms of city support here. We're not giving out TIF. We're not asking for additional general funds to support this project. The numbers come out to be about 10% of the total project, which is, great, because we've got other projects where the numbers are quite higher that in terms of city support. These are projects that require city support to move forward. And for us to be able to see this project, move forward with only at a 10% level of city support, I think is a big win for the city. So I can pause there and take questions about the ordinance and the pilot, or do you want me to go on and continue about the resolution?
Keep going. Sir.
Okay. So, we've established what the pilot is, the agreement with the developer. They'll be paying these taxes directly to the city. And I made a comment that the city has to take those funds and put them into an affordable housing fund that will be used to support affordable housing in the future. So state code really dictates kind of what those funds can be used for. The city currently does not have an affordable housing fund. It's more of like an accounting mechanism. So the second bill that we're asking your support on is a resolution that would establish within the city's finance system a fund that we call the Affordable Housing Fund. So all the pilot revenues that we bring in through this pilot or any pilot that we do in the future related to affordable housing would go into this fund. The Department of Community Investment would administer the fund under this resolution. And the state clarifies what those funds can be used for. It's not something that we can just do for whatever we want. It has to support affordable housing. It has to be targeted for developments that are focused on households at 80% AMI or lower. It can involve things like financial assistance to residents. It can involve assistance to developers. And it also can include administrative expenses related to the fund. Those are the four things really that this fund can be used for. This would be the first pilot that we're doing. So, the fund will have a very low balance for the first few years, until we can get those receipts in and actually have a fund that can provide value. The funds will be sitting there, hopefully accumulate some interest. But once they're at a level where we can go out, we can use them to support future projects and support residents dedicated to affordable housing. So those are the two bills that we're asking council support on. And the representative from Virgin Health is here as well. So
Okay.
I feel like I've done a lot of talking.
Our representative, anything to add regarding the project? And I'll note for the record, Councilmember Bolden Simpson came in and joined us during that presentation. So we have all community investment members present and accounted for. One more important piece of information, at the end of the first quarter, Coach Neil Ivey and Notre Dame women's team 20, Ohio State 22. At the end of the first quarter. So now back to our partner developer. Phil, what would you like to tell us about your project?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us today, and thanks to the city staff for all their help and guidance on this. It's been a great relationship so far, so we really appreciate it and your guys' time here today. Just a little bit about Virgin Health. We were founded in 2008. Headquartered in Indianapolis. We're a national real estate investment, construction, and development company where we really specialize in the construction, development, and management of these types of complexes. So a little bit more about the project. This deal was awarded in November of 2025. It's a 180 unit family workforce housing project, all with 100% of units at that 60% AMI level. You can see a little bit further of a breakdown of the ranges of individuals and families that would qualify for this project. Our timeline there is below. It was awarded in November of 2025, with closing coming up here in the middle of May. We're getting ready to actually go out for bid. We're in with the city for permitting and whatnot with our site plan and our building permits. So getting feedback now on that, and then we'll expect to go to bid here shortly after in the next few weeks. It has a roughly 18-month construction timeline, so it'd wrap up at the end of 2027. Here's kind of the location of the site, as Eric noted earlier. It's 6 residential buildings ranging from 12 to 36 unit buildings with a detached clubhouse and a pool and an in-ground pool. So inside that clubhouse, we have a community room, a business center, as well as a playground, like I said, a pool, bike racks and whatnot. This site also has 100% solar installation through rooftops and carports. So residents will only have their one rent bill, as you saw on the last slide, and the ownership will pay the rest of the utilities, which include free Wi-Fi. And we've seen this takes away the vulnerability in fluctuating utility costs throughout the seasons. And we've really had favorable comments and feedback back from our current residents on just how nice it is to just know you have one rent payment each and every month, and that's it. So I can answer questions if you guys have more questions regarding the development or the pilot.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we'll go to committee members. Any committee members with questions regarding either the first bill on the pilot or the second bill regarding the establishment of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? Councilmember Gooden Rogers.
Yes, can you go back to the slide where you had the rental amounts? Okay, so what does it say, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths? And that's saying 1188, that's a month?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's kind of, to me, a little steep for what we call an affordable housing. Maybe I don't know what affordable, that's kind of steep, but I mean, that's not really my question. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But what I really want to know is who's going to be maintaining this program? If the money is going to go into an account for usage of other housing or projects, who's doing the maintenance here?
Thank you, Congresswoman, or Congresswoman.
That's okay, thank you.
Someday, knock on wood,
Thank you.
someday.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Glad Congressman Yakum's not here today. So the fund would be managed essentially by the Executive Director of Community Investment. So, as I've noted, the state puts pretty tight restrictions on what the fund can be used for. So I'm just going to say these as examples. I'm not going to say that these are things that we would do, but maybe it would be a rental assistance program. That could be something that this fund money could be used for. Down payment program, providing assistance to a developer who wants to do an affordable housing development. We could provide some technical support there, for example. So there's different avenues. There's a lot of ways that we can use the funds. But to go back to your question, essentially the Executive Director of Community Investment would ultimately have the decision on kind of what programs those funds would be used to support. Obviously, creating new programs that might require council's approval, you would have to go through those processes. But the establishment is, we want to maintain some level of flexibility for these funds in the future, and establishing programs that are sustainable and making sure that, if this is a model that we continue to use for other projects, we could expect to see a nice, healthy balance in this fund, and we could really use it for supporting, additional programming and bringing more affordable housing in.
So then my next question, what I want to know is, with the stuff that we know that's going on with housing and complexes today. That's what I'm asking. Who's gonna be maintaining, I guess, who's gonna be maintaining that building for air conditioning and making sure the doors are on the building and the lighting and
Absolutely. So real quick to your comment on the rent.
elevators, whatever, stuff that people need, yes. Who's gonna be, because if we're putting the money into a fund to use for other purposes, then who's gonna take care of the building?
Yes. So
Thank you.
Oh, he's-
for your comment on the rent, I just want to call out too, that number does include the utilities. So there's no
Okay.
utilities on top of that. That would include, the roughly $125 to maybe $200 a unit in
Okay.
utilities. For your question on the maintenance, we do carry roughly a $200,000 yearly maintenance and operating budget that Virgin held carries within our own operating expenses for this project. Along with that, we also have an operating reserve. So we have those two different pots of money to make sure that this project is running smoothly, safely. Also, we're tied to this project for 15 years through the IHCDA program. So that makes us put quite a bit of investment in upfront on the units, the build standards. They'll have granite countertops and hardy plank siding. We also have a solar and water conservation kind of monitoring system that when we develop, this allows us to get on the front end of these expenses that could be in the future for possible maintenance and whatnot. So we do have an online monitoring system for both the solar installation and for water conservation.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Gregg.
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Gregg, go ahead.
All right. I got a couple questions. Start with you, Eric. How did we determine how much the pilot payment was going to be?
So we started out, as they presented that the project was going to be $47.5 million roughly. We get an idea as to what the SDC waiver would be, and I commented that it was about $270,000. So we knew that that's the number that we had to hit for the city support in order to hit the 10% requirement for the low income tax credit project. We had an idea in terms of what the total tax liability would be based on, the models that we've used for estimating tax liabilities. And as $330,000 a month, or excuse me, a year roughly. So then you just extend that out 15 years and get an idea in terms of what, the tax savings are going to be. In working with the developer, they commented that the amount that ultimately, would satisfy those requirements, starting at $36,000 a year and then stepping up, was equivalent to another low-income tax credit project that they have in the state. So, it was really a negotiation in terms of going back and forth on, did the numbers look right? Is this what we expect to see in terms of, how the building might be assessed? And then we were able to figure out what that tax savings would be.
Would it be safe to say then you kind of work backwards, starting with wanting to contribute 10%?
Yeah.
Kind of work.
Yeah, we knew that we hit the city and other municipalities for these applications have to be at 10%. So whether it was the Real America project, which is Diamond View, or even the Monroe project, you start that negotiation knowing that the city has to be at least at 10% in order for them to maximize the points that they can get for the application.
Thank you. Another question. Did I read the document properly that these pilot payments are subordinate to other payments of the project like debt, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, and Tom Everett from Barnes and Thornburg, who helped us through this process, might be able to provide a little bit more detail. These types of provisions are kind of standard when it comes to municipalities providing financial support for a project. So, just generally, if we were to do a forgivable loan, so a project that might be getting a loan, that loan is subordinate to any other, lender's obligations. In this case, it's almost like it's a standard clause, to my understanding, for these types of agreements throughout the state. Provides comfort as to the lender as, they go out and they're seeking third-party financing. However, it does not restrict the city's ability to go after delinquent tax payments. So the city would, all the, the standard enforcement mechanisms that either the city or the county has currently would still be in place. So this isn't waiving their obligation to pay their taxes. If they don't pay the pilot payment, then, we can assess penalties. We can start charging interest. We can charge collection costs. We can go through the tax sale process like it normally would. So I think the clause that you are commenting on is kind of just, it's more of a comfort clause so that, providing the third party lenders comfort that, this is a project that the city supports.
My experience with subordinate agreements is that once you subordinate, you do move to the back seat, and that you really don't have any recourse until everybody in front of you defaults. So when you say you have recourse, it's really recourse at the end of the project rather than being on the front end of the project, because you're not in first position anymore in terms of access to the real estate. True?
I think so.
Yeah, right. Okay, because really what it means is that the city then is behind the lender
Uh-huh.
to get our dough out. That's all
That's-
right. Which creates risk, incremental risk.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I, then I have a question on the project.
How many more questions you got, Mr.
Oh,
Greider?
one or two, that's all. Is that okay, or should I?
I'm going to move to somebody else and
Okay, I
then
can
we'll
rotate
we'll
around.
come back around and then
Please, let's do that.
Councilmember Bolden Simpson.
Yield the time. I have a question about the fund and what you could, what we can do with the fund. And since the target people are, was it 80% AMI or 60% AMI?
So for the fund has to be used to support residential projects that focus on 80% AMI or lower.
Okay, that might have answered my question because I was thinking, could the fund be used to support the residents, like financial counseling?
It could. Those would be things that the state,
Okay.
to my understanding, the state would allow those funds to be used for stuff like that.
Okay, project of how to maybe get into purchasing a house, how to handle your finances.
Yeah, it's restricted to 4 categories, but I think within those 4 categories is a wide range
Okay,
of things that you could do, which would include direct financial support. So rental assistance or direct financial support to the developer. But it could also be things like you had described, like maybe it's a financial literacy program.
yes, that's what I'm thinking about.
Those types of things I believe would qualify as well. You agree, Tom? Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you. That's the end
you.
of my question.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan.
Thanks. Do you expect that this would be the primary tool we use for affordable housing moving forward?
It's possible. We don't have any other commitments currently, but as we worked through with the developer in this case, it's come to our understanding that IHCDA likes this model as opposed to tax abatements. The pilots can be 15 years, which is the length of time that these agreements with the state are. And also it provides a clear amount in terms of what is going to be paid. So it helps through the financial analysis as well. So even though we're not working on any currently active, as we're approached by developers who are seeking, city support for a low-income tax credit project, this is a tool that we would seriously consider because of, it's much more concrete than a tax abatement.
And what would be the factors that would differentiate we're going to use this versus some of the other traditional tools that we've used?
All right, Joe Mueller, Deputy Director of Community Investment. One thing on would we use these for LIHTC going forward? One other reason beyond the good ones that Eric mentioned was, if you notice, Bergen Health has already been awarded their tax credit, which typically when we have to come for tax abatements, IHCDA has always wanted those tax abatements done prior to awarding. So we would have to come to you guys, come to the council for the tax abatement. we've done this before. We said, we hope this project gets awarded tax credits. We get everyone's hopes up. It's in the news. It's announced that this project's happening. And then if they're not actually given the award, all that time was essentially wasted by the council, by staff. This process can happen after the award, so you have much more certainty on the council's part that Bergen Health will build this building because they've already been awarded the tax credits from the state. So that's another benefit of the pilot program that the tax abatement normal process does not have. So I would imagine for LifeTech projects going forward, this might, be a more attractive option just because when we're coming to council, the project is much more certain that this housing will get built than before, where it was always before the IHCA had actually granted the award.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for those responses. And to the developer, I just want to thank you. This is a really interesting model. I think you've just raised the bar on affordable housing.
So, and I will add, although this is the first here that we've done in South Bend, these are pretty common down in Marion County and the Collar counties, and you guys have done quite a few of these. Councilmember Netskotsky.
Thank you, Chair Warner. In reference to 2610 on the establishment of the fund, and I know it's kind of been touched on in section 2 where it talks about provide technical assistance to nonprofit developers of affordable housing. So what exactly does that mean? I mean, just like an example, are we talking like the programs that Councilmember Bolden Simpson talked about, or is there other technical assistance? What does that mean? And then in section 3, I just want to clarify where it says the controller shall invest the money of the fund not currently needed to meet the obligations of the fund in the same manner as said other public options may be invested. So is that saying that those monies are coming in and he's to invest those, or they're just saying, because I heard you say that the community investment's going to be controlling those funds. So what does that last sentence mean in section 3? Just for clarification, so I have a clear understanding.
I'm going to defer to the lawyer on this one.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, council members. Tom Everett from Barnes and Thornburg with offices at 201 South Main Street in South Bend. As to the first question, so that's the language in the statute that authorizes the fund to be used to provide technical assistance to nonprofit developers of affordable housing. There's no other explanation in the statute for what that could be used for, but I would imagine it could be used for a variety of things to work with, say, a nonprofit developer that wants to come into the city to provide affordable housing, but maybe doesn't necessarily have all of the experience or needs assistance from the city to kind of get off the ground. So I think it's intentionally broad under the statute and could be used for a variety of things that come up.
Okay, so I didn't look at the code, but the state didn't define the term then.
No, they did not.
My understanding is, for example, we RDC partners with 466 Works and Intend, and we provide some financial assistance to those projects, single family homes where, a new home build now is $200,000 to build that, and it's not affordable. So the city puts in some funds towards that to building cost, then to reduce the cost of the house to the family, and that would qualify under that situation.
That's correct. And then as to the second question regarding the administration of the fund, that language is, as you mentioned, and as Eric stated, the Department of Community Investment would be responsible for administering the fund. But the controller would, as you have funds on deposit, as those start to build up over time, those would be invested so that, those funds are earning interest, just like the city would do with its other funds. And so this language is really just to direct the controller to invest the funds as appropriate.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly.
Thank you. Councilmember President Lee.
Thank you. And thank you to my council colleagues for asking some of the same exact questions I was going to ask. But my biggest question is, as Councilwoman Gooden Rogers stated, as we're bringing in affordable housing, how will we make sure that this establishment becomes something that will continuously be something nice for people, for residents to live in, and keep the higher standard? How do you guys plan to do that?
Yeah, so like I stated earlier, we do set aside those funds each and every year to reinvest into the project. We'll have full security through cameras on site, full maintenance and management staff will be staffed and working on site each and every day. So with those two things, that's kind of how we go about making sure everything stays up to our standard as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember.
How do you
Dr.
market
Davis.
your development? What do you do to market? Mike, what do you do to market your development so others in the community know where you are to that they could look at coming there? What are your marketing strategies to reach the residents of South Bend?
Yeah, we use a lot on apartments.com and as well as other just online marketing platforms for low-income apartments like these. A lot of it too, we've found is word of mouth, as well as just local, publicity and whatnot. But we go about it in each project's a little bit different, but we do have a standard marketing plan that I'm more than happy to provide to you.
Okay, I would
if
appreciate
you'd like.
doing that.
Absolutely.
And what has been your successes in other developments? What's been your key success when you've done similar projects in other areas, other cities? Have you done something like you've done like this in other cities?
We have,
correct?
yeah.
And what is you think has been that helps you to stand out among others who do the similar work?
Yep, this solar installations that we're doing, we're one of the only developers here in the Midwest that are utilizing this source of funds, but also this huge benefit for residents. We've seen huge and massive feedback, just positive feedback from our residents as a lot of them struggle with the fluctuating utility costs. So we've continued to be competitive on that just because it allows for a resident just to have that one payment, kind of similar to the pilot, like you know what you're going to pay, and that's that. And so we've had a tremendous positive feedback in terms of getting people not only to come and live, but to actually stay at our places. We do a good job of creating a sense of community too. Our management staff is incredible in the work that they do on site with our residents. So kind of all those combinations together, we've really had one great occupancy, but also great retention.
Thank you. We're now 40 minutes in. I'm going to ask council to hold any more questions to the 7 p.m. hour. Mr. Gripe, I'll give you one more question, sir. Since you won't be here at 7 p.m.
Do combination of questions.
You'll be done constructing this at the end of 27. What is in your pro forma? What's your absorption timeline after that? How long will it take you to get to full capacity?
Yep. So like I said earlier, this project's 6 buildings. We hope to have the first building online roughly 12 months in. So we'll start opening it up roughly 12 months in, and each following building will be another month.
Okay.
Following that, though, the lease up timeline's roughly at a year.
Okay. All right. Eric, then tying into that, what other products or how many more units are coming online in 2028 that has some kind of affordable housing? Where I'm going with this is trying to determine, are we all of a sudden going to have a bubble of bloat of so much availability and maybe not enough people to put in there during this window?
Council Member Warner had touched upon it. So KCG is how many units? 50 units. That's on South Main Street. Tri-Day is 40 to 50, roughly. That's in the far northwest, out by where the new day intake center will be. The Drury's development will likely have some income qualified housing there. That number is to be determined, but it will be it's going to be a mixed income development. You'll also see a mixed income development on Western Avenue where Rabbi Shulman and the Housing Authority's property is now. I don't think that number of affordable units has been determined yet, but there is a need for housing across all income levels. The city's most recent housing study showed that. I mean, we're talking thousands. So companies like Virgin Held or the market rate developers that are investing in South Bend, I mean, they've done their due diligence. They wouldn't be investing their money if they weren't going to be able to rent out the properties. So we're confident.
It's really a question of timing. So you're comfortable that we can absorb 300 affordable housing units in the course of 2028?
Yeah, the housing studies that the city's completed, provide comfort in terms of, the demand is there.
So yeah, the 2021 study was 5,000 units short. That didn't include the units that were lost over at the Housing Authority. I know they've lost over 500 units over there at Rabbi Shulman, just on that block and to the south. And in that study, not only were we 5,000 short, but I think it estimated another 800 every year due to aging stock and things like that on the shortage. So, we have a pretty big deficit and need, especially on the low income affordable housing. Okay, with that, we're going to go to the public at this time. Any members of the public wishing to speak on bills number, I lost the bill numbers. Thank you. 1126 and 2610. Anyone in person or online? Before we go to that, halftime, Lady Irish 43, Ohio State 35. Any members of the public wishing to speak regarding the Heritage Trail project or the Affordable Housing Fund
I do not
resolution?
see any
in-
members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor at this time.
Okay, anybody wishing to speak against?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Okay, we'll come back. At this time, I would entertain a motion on Bill 1126, authorizing a pilot for Heritage Trail South Bend.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We did accept the substitute on this, so this is for the substitute. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Committee Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Committee Member Bolden Simpson,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kevin Upton,
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Gray,
I'd like to abstain on this vote, please.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes and 1 abstain.
Thank you. And now I would entertain a motion on Resolution 2610, establishing the local fund pursuant to India Code 525-15.5.
Move to send to is this the whole council?
This would be the whole council.
Whole council with a favorable recommendation.
Did I hear a second down there?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Committee Member Bolden Simpson,
Aye.
Committee Member Gooden Rogers, Committee Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kevin Upton,
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Gray,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
I have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Both of those bills will go forward to 7 p.m. with favorable recommendations. We'll see you then. At this time, we will hear resolution number 2609, approving an interlocal agreement between the City of South Bend, the County of St. Joseph, and the Michiana Area Council of Governments establishing a land bank. Welcome, Mr. Molnar.
Thank you, Councilmember Warner. Joe Molnar, Deputy Director of Community Investment with the offices on the 5th floor of City Hall. I will try to be relatively quick because I know that one ran long and we can, of course, talk more at 7. But before you is a resolution approving the interlocal agreement for the creation of a St. Joseph County Regional Land Bank. We can't really talk about the need for a land bank or why a land bank would be beneficial for the city of South Bend without at least very briefly talking about South Bend's history. I know many of you on the council have seen some graphs and images like this before, but I think just for a reminder, it's always helpful. Since 1960 to 2010, so in a 50-year period, South Bend lost over 30,000 residents. That has begun to tick up, but 2010 was the lowest point. That loss of residents led to an increase of vacancy and blighted properties, which ballooned across the city, which resulted for a need for the city to have a plan for the vacant property and blighted structures that remained after the exodus of residents and the decline of other industrial and other deindustrializational processes that happened and the rise of other issues in the city. So just what does it look like when a city loses 30,000 residents, especially concentrated in a few neighborhoods? This is just one image of many you could find in blocks in the city of South Bend. On the left is an image from 1998, and on the right is an image from 2015. So as you can see, a significant decline in structures over time and an increase in vacant property, likely vacant property that is not being maintained by the property owner who has abandoned it. So this was the problem that the city was facing going into the 2010s, and the city, with a number of community partners, had the Vacant and Abandoned Housing Task Force, which produced a report in 2013, of which this image is from. This was the vacant and abandoned properties concentration. The hardest neighborhoods hit were on the west side, the northwest side, and the southeast, but also sprinkled in through River Park, the other portions of the south side, even the northeast. There were significant problems with vacant and abandoned properties throughout the city. So how did the city respond? And one of the initiatives out of that task force was the city start its own unofficial land bank to sort, and acquired over 600 vacant lots via the tax sale process with a partnership with St. Joseph County. The city had to do that for one, to help try to acquire this property to be able to do something, because they would just get sit and stuck in the tax sale process. At the time, state law was very restrictive to land banks in the state of Indiana. They were only allowed in Marion County to start, and then even when it broadened through the whole statewide, they had very strict requirements, and they weren't actually a very useful tool to be used in Indiana. So that's why the city went and did this unofficial land banking to start to acquire these properties in order to make them productive again. Since then, the laws have subsequently changed, and it has allowed this tool of a land bank to be used, which would be much easier and much more beneficial to be able to address blighted and vacant properties. But in even just the unofficial aspect that the city's able to do, has been able to be very successful. You've seen many of the agreements that have come before you on being able to build new housing on those vacant lots that the city acquired through the tax sale process. Partnerships with the NNN, with 4666 Works, with the Habitat for Humanity, with Intend, have led to a large growth of housing in those neighborhoods, which had not seen new housing growth in many decades. And just last year, 187 new homes were permitted in the city of South Bend. Approximately 100 of those were on land that the city had acquired through the tax sale process. This, of course, included multiple partners, some of I mentioned over time. And then also, going back a little more with the history, since COVID, we've seen the rising home values at the same time that we still are dealing with a lot of vacant and abandoned properties. So now we also have the need of not only how do we address these vacant properties and blighted properties that are a nuisance to our city residents, but also we know we need to tackle the affordable housing need across the city. And land control is that first barrier, because you cannot build a home unless you have land to do so. And land control is so vital in order to start the process. Even in an area like South Bend, where the land values are relatively lower compared to the coasts, even just getting control of the land, even if it's not actually the price of the land that matters, but just if you cannot access the land because it's stuck in tax sale and it can never get out because of all the liens on it and all the restrictions, you'll never be able to do something productive with that land again. Furthermore, a housing study recently across the entire region, so this is certainly not South Bend, called the need for 13,000 new housing units to help replace some of the older ones over time that are slowly being phased out, and as well as meet the needs of the coming decades. Certainly South Bend does not have to tackle that whole 13,000 on its own, but we know we need to build back these neighborhoods as well as provide new housing options for residents. Because if we want to attract jobs here that pay good wages, we know we need to have a thriving residential base for them to be able to access, those employers to be able to access good employees. And they cannot have good employees if we don't provide good places for people to live. So we have dual issues kind of right now. We still have the issues of many, many vacant lots in the city of South Bend, and also still a significant amount of blighted properties, as well as we have this demand for new housing. And so we have these two dual issues that we're contending with. So to provide even a little more history, as I said, state law previously had limited what land bank capabilities could do, but in 2021, state legislation made it easier for land banks to exist statewide, which included legislation that allowed land banks to acquire blighted properties easier, strengthen local tools to get blighted properties into the land bank, and required counties to share a list of distressed properties with land banks. And so before all those changes, land banks were much less effective. And now we think this would be the right time to introduce a land bank into St. Joseph County because of these tools that it can now have. So almost done with the history lesson. So after that legislation changed, there was a number of community members, and I know a number of city council members and city council itself participated in a study of what would a community regional land bank look like. One of the results of all that work between community partners, civic leaders, city staff, council members, was the establishing the very creatively titled report, Establishing a Land Bank in South Bend and St. Joseph County. That report came out in 2013 and essentially set the stage for what we have here today. More studies and more reports have since been finished, essentially all leading to the point that a land bank would be of value to our community. So what is a land bank? A land bank is a nonprofit created specifically to acquire, hold, manage, and then repurpose vacant and abandoned property. So acquire the most troubled properties that we have that are not being maintained, maintain them in the interim, and then get them into the hands of somebody who can do something productive with them. This will help stabilize neighborhoods via direct property ownership because the land bank will actually be the owner of the property and making sure that the properties are being maintained. And it also streamlines property dispositions by the process set up with the county in this agreement. It clears the title, addresses all back taxes, and then the land bank would come and either help renovate the property or get it into the hands of someone who can renovate it or build a new building. So why do we need the land bank? Since we're already doing unofficial land banking via the Board of Public Works, and why should we go away with what we've been doing? Well, even though the city has seen lots of success doing this unofficial land banking, it is not exactly the best tool that you'd want to use. The city is not set up really to be a developer selling one-off properties to individuals. We're not set up in that way where it really makes sense. We're not nimble enough to do that just by the structure of our design. The current process is cumbersome and difficult. We've been doing it, but it sometimes leads to bad outcomes where the city is put in a position that it really shouldn't find itself in. So the benefit of the land bank versus this current status quo has a number of bonuses. The land bank would have legal status to get the tax sale property. In the agreement, the county is agreeing to share the lists of blighted properties and to work with the county or to work with the land bank for the county to transfer those abandoned properties and those properties that have been long delinquent on tax sale right to the land bank. Currently, and that process can happen automatically without, just the agreement of the two. Right now, if the city wants to acquire property that's on the tax sale, it is essentially every single time we want to do any of those properties, we have to start over the whole negotiations all over again with the board of commissioners of the county. We have to get sign off from the Board of Public Works. We have to hope and the county can just say no, and then we can never move forward. While this is a setup process where the county has to be a partner because they're a partner and a part of the agency for the land bank. So they already have better leverage than we do if we're just trying to do this in a one-off manner. Also, the land bank will be better set up for the disposition of smaller scale projects. The city, unofficially, we do not try to take on vacant and abandoned properties of houses because it's very hard for the city to manage one structure of a house. We are not in the renovating house business. That's not really how we're set up to do. And then selling that house, if we were to renovate it or trying to sell that house, is very difficult because it has to go through a bid process. And it has to go through all these because the state has strict rules for how the city can sell property. And anyone who's just the highest bidder from the Board of Public Works would get the property, even if there might not be the best person who actually can renovate the property. If someone bid $5,000 and with a whole plan to renovate it, and someone bid $10,000 and they just wanted to keep it sitting, per law, the Board of Public Works has to go with that higher value. The land bank will have more discretion in making sure that this property is moved through the process and get into more responsible hands. The land bank is also better suited for rehab of existing houses. As I said, they can help manage perhaps even the renovation of the house where it's very difficult for the city to bid out work to repair a home. And it really isn't exactly the business that we want to be in. And the land bank can help get larger, more complicated properties to the city of South Bend faster. One instance where this could be useful is now that the land bank has a relationship with the county and the county is a founding member of the land bank. If there is a troublesome, larger scale industrial, blighted property that the city thinks it could take over and make better, that process can move much smoother. Land bank gets it, transfers it to the city, we go off to the races, compared to, say, South Bend Range, which took 18 months for us to go through the process because the county wanted it to go through the tax sale and then come back to us. And, sometimes then there's political considerations. So you're wasting a lot of time dealing with things where with the land bank, we'll be able to set up to move property into responsible hands quicker. There's also a cost to all this vacant land that the city is currently shouldering. There are approximately 300 properties on continuous enforcement, which are where city knows that this property has been abandoned by its owner. They're not going to cut this grass. So the city regularly goes, cuts the grass, issues the fines, knowing that those fines are probably never going to be paid because they've washed their hands with the property. The more properties we can get out of those types of owners' hands and into the land bank where we can have an agreement with them, the better, as well as getting it back into a taxable use. So I'll run through this really quickly because I've covered some of this, but knowing that in order to rebuild neighborhoods, land control is the first step in the process, and this gives us a tool to get that land control. So even if a property, the owner never intended to become a bad owner, but say the property owner deceased, they did not pay their property taxes then, their estate never handled it. It gets stuck in the tax sale process, but the property racks up enough fines that it's way more expensive than the land is worth. No one's ever going to bid on that property. Nothing will ever happen to that lot unless either the city really begs the county to give it to us or we establish a land bank here, which can help that transfer. Most developers will not go through the time to hire the attorney to go through the 18-month process to redeem property on tax sale. And that's a really big barrier to redeveloping the neighborhoods. It would also help us create a consistent inventory of development-ready lots. If the land bank knows it has lots ready and then it has partnerships with developers, it can move quickly and it can move in a way that's fair and transparent. And it also alleviate the ongoing cost of maintaining those deteriorating properties. As I said, for example, the fall tax sale had a little over 200 vacant properties on the list. And as I explained, this provides an off-ramp for that tax sale loop that continuously just keeps circulating through. It would work with vetted property owners, and it begins kind of a strategy for a larger St. Joseph County, Elkhart, and Marshall County, regional approach to housing. This right here is just to establish the St. Joseph County portion of that land bank, though. So what will the land bank do? It would acquire vacant abandoned properties via the agreement with the tax sale, as well as possibly going on its own and trying to negotiate deals, acquiring, blighted properties directly through the property owner. It would help stabilize and maintain those properties so that they're being maintained and they're no longer a drag on our neighborhood while they hold them. And then they would hopefully market for their reuse and redevelopment. And then they'd be able to vet potential buyers who could, for example, if you have this abandoned lot that's been stuck in the tax sale loop, the land bank's able to get in, acquire it, and then the neighbor next door, it's only wants it for their side lot. They can work directly with that owner to work out a deal where then it's maintained across the time. And they ensure lots are sold for redevelopment and remain in compliance with the land bank. So the land bank can make sure that if they fall on their commitments to maintain their property, the land bank can get the property back. There would be reduced administrative costs from a code enforcement angle. If we start cutting down these numbers of blighted and abandoned properties, code enforcement will have to do less and less of the continuous enforcement on them, as well as I said, strengthening the neighborhoods over time. The first step is reducing the negative, taking the lots that are overgrown, they're not maintained, the buildings that are maintained, taking those negatives away and making sure that they're neutral, and then hopefully building something back up, and then they become a positive. And real briefly, here is the current tax sale cycle. So if you have delinquent property taxes that are not paid over time, it eventually goes to the tax certificate sale. If that is not sold, then it goes to the commissioner's sale. So that's already been about 24 months since, by the time you're at the commissioner's sale, by the time someone has stopped paying their taxes, that property has sat for 24 months. Maybe it's not being maintained, maybe it is. If it's not sold again, it just goes right back to the sale. If it is sold to a private investor, sometimes that private investor, they just buy it. Hopefully that their property owner will redeem their taxes and they'll make income. If that doesn't happen, sometimes they abandon the property before they even get full title of it, and then we go right back through the cycle. So there's lots of feedback loops that are negative in this cycle where it really does not give a chance for responsible actors to come in and be productive with the land. Under the proposed solution through the land bank, you'd have delinquent property taxes or property taxes that were abandoned. If those tax sales were not sold, the land bank could immediately request them from the county. And then property would be physically cleaner. They would start to maintain the lot, as well as they'd be able to clear the title. And then you'd be able to vet a new owner and get it back into taxable hands. Much simpler process with one through line through the. So what is the actual commitments in the interlocal agreement? The city and county would help form the land bank. Per state law, it has to be a government agencies forming these land banks as partnerships. Both the city and the county will have 3 appointments each on the board that governs land bank, and MACOG would have 1 appointment. The city would provide $500,000 in upfront startup costs and $300,000 annually for the first 4 years in order to get them funding to start operating, is being able to work on some of these properties as well. And then the county is pledged to provide certain tax sale certificates and tax for delinquent properties as agreed upon by the land bank and the county, as well as help with that legal process of transferring the tax sale certificates over to the land bank. And then MACOG would actually provide the staff for the operations. The county council approved the resolution allowing the commissioners to fully approve, and then the commissioners have voted to fully approve the land bank as well. There's been a number of community support for this initiative. As I mentioned, over the last decade plus, like I said, many of you on council have been working on this issue, and a number of community members as well. We submitted a number of letters of support that were also sent when it was going through the county process, including Affordable Home Matters, Rosenthal Henry Capital, the Near Northwest, the Neighborhood Inc., University of Notre Dame, the South Bend Regional Chamber, South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership, and many others have voiced support for this program over time. And also what is very exciting is that MACOG was able to get a Lilly Foundation to help capitalize this land bank. So 1 million of that foundation will be able to use in support of operations for the fund, money that can go towards maintenance of the properties, rehab of some of the houses, that whole process. Additionally, a $3 million grant from Lilly Foundation has been placed in an endowment with the Community Foundation. And after the first 5 years, the annual interest is estimated to generate a little over $200,000, which will partially then keep supporting the land bank. Over time, ideally, if it's managed correctly, that endowment will grow and grow and grow, providing a stable use of funds moving forward to support these properties. So in total, this project helps leverage $4 million of Lilly Foundation money here locally. So the key powers are listed there: acquire the tax foreclosed property, ability to extinguish the liens and clear the title, hold the property tax exempt while they get it ready for the future, and dispositions are a little more flexible, driven not by the highest price, as I said, but by the best outcome for the community, and accountable, though, still to the public due to the fact that the county and city are essentially the managers of the board, with 6 appointments out of the 7 coming from the city or the county. So very last slide, key takeaways: it improves upon an existing process that the city has ad hoc been doing, as well as fulfills a 10+ year decade community push for a local land bank and a path forward for long-term blighted projects that is currently unavailable today. It also leverages $4 million in state Lilly Foundation funds locally to be able to be reinvested continuously in South Bend. And it establishes a long-standing partnership between the city, county, and MACOG to address blighted and vacant properties in South Bend. We have representatives from MACOG here as well, if they'd like to add anything I missed.
Mr. Turnwald, anything you'd like to add? I know he left a couple gaps and holes there.
Yeah, my comments should cover at least the next 2 hours. No, James Turnwald with Michiana Area Council of Governments, Executive Director there. We have offices in the county building now. And I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. Really just quickly, high-level summary of what Mr. Molnar presented is that essentially the land bank provides a clear, straightforward process that is predictable and coordinated with our different local governments to move properties from being a tax delinquent, abandoned, or vacant neighbor, and moving those back to being a positive contributing neighbor in those various neighborhoods, having a very positive outcome for the community at large. So we would look forward to any questions or comments, and we look forward to being a partner. I also want to introduce Lisa Slumka.
Hi, my name is Lisa Slumka. I am the director of the Regional Housing Collaborative, which will house the land bank at Maycog. It also includes a revolving loan fund that's part of the Housing Collaborative. And I also want to note, Joe gave a breakdown of the portion of the Lilly grant that is going towards the land bank. But I do also want to call attention to the fact that overall, the Regional Housing Collaborative is funded by a $20 million grant from Lilly. And so this is a portion of it, but the two pieces are very closely tied together and work together.
Fantastic, thank you. We're going to shift up just a bit. I'm going to go to the public first. Any members of the public wishing to speak on bill number 2609, the resolution approving the interlocal agreement between the city of South Bend, the county of St. Joseph, and Michiana Area Council of Governments, establishing a land bank. Anyone either in person or online wishing to speak on the matter at this time?
I have one person wishing to speak.
Online? Okay, go ahead. We'll go to online.
Please turn your camera on and state your name and address.
We can't hear you, Ms. Mannix.
This is Ann Manick, 724 West Washington. I don't want to take any time, but I think this is a great thing. This is the issue we've worked on for 10 years. So I would just urge passage and thank everyone for their work on it.
Thank you.
That's
And thank you, Ann. And I'll note we got your letter. It was part of a larger packet of support letters from governmental entities, also from some of the smaller towns in the county. Until I saw those letters, and then they have the same problem with vacant abandoned housings in those smaller towns out in the county too. So this makes sense in a broader. Okay, so for council members, I'm going to just ask you, we limit to questions at this time. I know, and we'll do comments at the 7 p.m. hour. So Councilmember Gooden Rogers, questions at this time?
Yes, I have a question. My question would be, say that city now and the partners acquire 2 or 3 houses, land with 2 or 3 houses on them, okay? So now it's already a blighted area. So how much longer will these houses sit here making the neighborhood look bad before they be removed? Is the person that's gonna buy the land gotta do it, or is this group's gonna tear it down and make the land look presentable? And then are we gonna keep this land up once we put all this land in the land bank? Are we gonna keep it clean and stuff like that? That's what I'm interested in.
Definitely. So for the first part of your question, if the city owned the parcels already and wanted to transfer them to the land bank, then that could be a pretty quick process. I think usually it just involves a simple property transfer, and then once it is in the land bank, we would take over management of it. And so currently, I actually think we are going to be doing a partnership with the city for some of the management, but we will be contributing to the costs and making sure to kind of keep tabs on that property, make sure that it's stabilized and boarded up when need be. If it's unsafe, we'll work with contractors to address those needs. If it does need to be demolished, we'll also work with contractors to address that. And we will be developing a process with the board of directors once we have that. Once the land bank is established and we have the board, we'll put together policies and procedures for the disposition process, which would be taking in applications for use of the property and then vetting those buyers and working with them on their project. We would ask for a timeline and make sure that it isn't property that just sits, that it's maintained until it goes to a buyer. And then once it does go to a buyer, that they're carrying through their proposed project. And if they did not keep up their end of the bargain, we would have the ability to take back that property and then have it go to another responsible buyer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bolden Simpson.
Thank you. There was a sentence that I think you said, I missed it. The land bank will have legal status to, what was that?
Oh.
Because I'm kind of wondering, how are you going to just take this land for lack of, what's this process? It sounds just great. How you gonna do this? Just
Yeah,
take this
so
land?
we're not taking any land. I want to
Okay, all
clarify
right.
that up front. So this process is allowed for under Indiana code.
Okay.
And what the land bank is able to do is provide a simpler process after properties have already gone through the tax sale process.
They have to go.
So property owners will still have their full suite of rights that are available to them if they already own property. If it has then gone through tax sale and has not sold at tax sale, the vicious cycle that starts there is then that property continues to sit in tax sale and it goes through a continuous cycle of being vacant with no ownership. And that's where this provides an off-ramp for those types of parcels. Additionally, it does offer an off-ramp, say, for family members who have a loved one who has passed away here locally and no one is living here locally and they have now inherited a property that they do not want. And this would provide an off-ramp for those kind of properties as well that just currently doesn't exist. So this would allow for accessing properties that have already gone through the tax sale process. And it creates a much simpler, straightforward process that allows for then us to eventually have a public website. Folks can see what properties are available. We can talk to neighbors about, they're probably already mowing those lots or maintaining them. Is there a way that they, purchase those lots, or we work with larger development as well? So.
Okay, so it just goes through it one time instead of that multiple times. I'm good.
Councilmember White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't have a question. I would just like to request a copy of the presentation be sent to the council members, but also to the city clerk. And it could even be placed on our website for informational purposes.
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
I'll check it over for typos one more time. And then
Council President Lee.
Thank you. This solves a very important problem that we have in our city. My question is, this also brings local ownership to properties so that we don't have out-of-state, out-of-country individuals owning properties in our community and not maintaining them, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I do also want to note that in addition to the board, there will also be a acquisition and disposition committee that can involve community members and other individuals. We would like to make sure that we have a good representation initially with St. Joseph County once we start, but then also across the region as we grow the land bank to make sure that we have local voices.
And once those properties are in the land bank, how is it determined what amount they will sell for?
We start with the current market value for those properties. There might be some flexibility for being able to offer them for a lower rate. We're not looking for bids on the property, so it'll really just be what the current value is what it will be sold for. And I mentioned before that we'll put together an application process with the board. Best practice that other land banks in the state have used is to consider one proposal at a time. So it's in that sense, it's a little bit of a first come, first serve, but once it's publicly listed on the website, we will accept proposals. The first proposal that comes through, we'll consider. If it is a robust proposal with a vetted, responsible buyer, then we will likely move forward with it, so long as it aligns with community needs and interests and et cetera. But if it doesn't, then we would have the ability to say no to that proposal and then accept another proposal.
Thank you. Committee members, at this time, I would entertain a motion regarding Bill number 2609 regarding the land bank.
Move to send bills 2609 to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation.
I will second
Second.
to the full council.
Full,
That's
this
correct.
one's full council.
Thank you. And I will second that. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Committee Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Committee Member Bolden Simpson,
Aye.
Citizen Member Kevin Upton,
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Grape,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. That'll go forward to 7 p.m. with a favorable recommendation. I do apologize to the Utilities Committee, Chair Bolden Simpson, and to Zoning and Annexation, Chair Dr. Davis, that we're going over. But these are all exciting bills we've got tonight. So now we go to our last bill, Bill number 2608, a resolution approving and adopting the Downtown 2045 plan.
Good evening, committee members. Brian Killen, zoning administrator, fifth floor, City Hall.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. We're bringing to you this evening, the Downtown 45 plan is a multi-year planning and community engagement effort, which if approved will amend the city's comprehensive plan from 2006. The plan was heard by the Plan Commission last week through public hearing. It was approved and adopted. So that's the same resolution that you'll hear today. Just brief intro, I'll hand it over to Tim.
Thanks, Brian. Tim Corcoran, Director of Planning with offices on the 5th floor of this building, 15. Geez. Congress people and wrong flights. Yeah. So this is an abbreviated presentation. I'll give a more in-depth and thorough one this evening. So just to give you a sense of what's in the planning document and go from there. So this is kind of the abbreviated plan table of contents for the plan. It focuses on an overview, like a history of downtown, the planning context, the engagement process. It follows up with analysis, development patterns, market analysis, parking analysis, the vision. This is the meat of the plan. These are all the ideas that make up the plan. Focusing on the heart of downtown, arts and culture, innovation and institutional catalysts, neighborhoods, and the public realm. Also, we have built form and design standards, and this is something to help ensure that the quality of development is also matched with the types of development that we're looking to achieve. So there's design guidance, things to address focal points in our community, zoning and building typologies. And also, we have a lot of historic resources in South Bend, and so we didn't want to forget about that. And so there's a section on historic preservation and ultimately an implementation matrix of how do we get things finished. Okay, so as always, we start off with what is the plan? Keep this simple. The downtown plan is a shared statement developed through a community engagement process about the desired long-term future for the planning area and a strategy to achieve those goals. It's a guide for decisions about future development, how resources allocated, how issues residents and businesses, property owners, and others in the neighborhood will be addressed. It's for residents, developers, builders, public officials, community leaders, and city staff, and includes implementation strategies and how to achieve the plan goals. So why now? Why should we do the downtown plan now, or 2 years into this process? In 2024, when we were looking to start this, new projects and investment coming to downtown roughly equated to $1 billion of new investment, both public and private total. So we thought we need to really figure out a way to guide this investment and guide future investment. We had either completed or were in the process of completing 13 neighborhood plans. And the new plan would serve as a 20-year vision for what downtown could become. These are just a handful of the examples of the $1 billion of investment from 2024. So in terms of some planning context, the vision plan considered work that had been done in surrounding neighborhoods. So you can see in the colored shapes, different neighborhood plans that surround that darker boundary. And there's some overlap in this, and that's good because then we're able to show how some of these things stitch together. Another big thing that we were thinking about is really trying to position the city as a sort of center point for a larger region spanning north central Indiana and southwest Michigan. And how could we think of ourselves in that playing that bigger role in this broader region? We already have folks who travel 45 minutes to an hour from around our community to work in South Bend. And so why not start thinking about ourselves in that larger context, and what does that mean to be kind of that center point for this region? As with all plans, we start with engagement and talking to our community and residents. We started in January 2024 with stakeholder meetings. The best way to create a successful implementable vision for downtown is to listen to the community and their priorities. So we conducted over 23 virtual and in-person meetings with a variety of community stakeholders. We held a speaker event with Casey Steinbacher. She was the head of the downtown, the kind of the version of downtown South Bend, but for Durham, North Carolina. And the reason we brought her in is that Durham is really an analog to South Bend, except they're a little bit further along. The community mirrored South Bend 20 years ago, much in terms of the built form and the level of investment or not investment that was happening. They also have a baseball stadium, looks just like ours, with apartments almost exactly like it, flanking it. So it was really interesting to see the similarities. But her real key takeaways is that we need to plan for success, and that's something that they didn't do. So for instance, they didn't think about affordable housing in their downtown. And in many ways, the projects that you've, even tonight have heard about, we're leading the way a lot of times with affordable housing. We followed that up with visioning workshops, where we asked residents, business owners, and stakeholders a series of questions in order to help generate ideas to come up with sort of the goals and the development principles that we would want the plan to follow. A lot of participants, a lot of ideas were generated in this time. And all these ideas culminated into 9 development principles. Activating the riverfront was probably the #1 thing that we heard from community members, but expanding housing options. This is affordable housing to luxury housing. Anchor downtowns with jobs and people. Creating a safe and inclusive place for everyone. Creating vibrant public places. Building comfortable and accessible connections, grow and support local businesses, embrace sustainable practices, and support and leverage arts and culture. That led into Design Week. This was a really fun week for us, and hopefully those who participated, where we brought in 2 urban design firms, and we had data from our economic analysis and parking analysis, and where we started to really diagnose the downtown and how we could use those development principles and articulate them visually through graphics. And then test those ideas with the public, where you can see pictures here of people being able to look at these initial ideas, comment on them, so that we could go back, revise those, and add to them. Of that, some sort of 3 sort of priorities, like real focus areas, if you will, came out of that. Of those 9, just for like the heart of downtown, activating the riverfront, expanding housing options, and creating vibrant public places. We followed this up with open houses and additional stakeholder engagement. So presenting the plan back to stakeholders, hearing their feedback, taking that feedback on, and revising the plan accordingly. So this is where we're at in the public and in the time frame of the plan. So we started in January 2024, and here we are today. The plan is backed up by a couple studies. One is an economic analysis by RCLCO. So everything in the plan, all the buildings that are shown in the map, they have floor spaces to them that all relate back to this plan in terms of what the economic analysis thought was achievable in a 20-year time frame, and then to show buildings that achieved the goals that come from this analysis. And part of that is that we had moderate and strong demand for rental apartments and for sale townhomes in downtown, a demand for a full-scale grocery and restaurants, and a demand for a new hotel. This analysis both looked at what would be considered the sort of standard sort of growth pattern that the city was likely to achieve, but also looked at how some ideas for, at the time, new investments in downtown from, say, the University of Notre Dame, which we knew could bring more jobs into our downtown, could actually accelerate and increase both the time and the amount of things that could happen in our community. Also, we looked at a parking analysis to find that we have a lot of parking even though people sometimes don't think that. At peak times at 10 a.m., downtown parking is only 46% occupied on average. There are a few hot spots around this area, but where the parking is maybe 80% utilized. But overall, it's highly underutilized. And what this means is that we have this is an asset. These are places in which development can happen. So vacant or underutilized parking lots can become new buildings. New buildings pay taxes, parking lots do not. And that way we can really also financially make our community stronger. So a synopsis of the vision for downtown is that for the heart of downtown, reinvigorating the heart of downtown, super important. Drawing jobs into downtown, creating housing diversity and infill, and a world-class open space network are important. And that we broke this down into sort of 4 types of vision projects, which I'll go through. I'll give you an example from each. So in terms of the heart of downtown, one of the big moves that we thought would really make our community much more attractive for not only people to live here, but also for people to visit, is how do we utilize the current gridiron to create an active public square that can become that living room that Casey Steinbacher talked about for downtown. So taking what we see and all know today, where our DTSB organization does a great job of trying to activate this place. And I said at the Plan Commission kind of jokingly that there's like one outlet for them to plug in all the electricity for all the things that they're trying to do. So it's obviously not meant for all the great things that we'd love to do in this space. So looking at, could we adaptively reuse the building? Putting on this idea of sort of a front porch that allows for indoor, outdoor activities, and then really greening up, adding water features and businesses surrounding this town square and the public domain around it as well, as one idea. And one of the things that I always talk about in our plans is that there's always options. This is the idea here, is that we want to activate this place, and there's different ways to do it. This is one way. The other way is if the building were to disappear, and look at a food hall or something like that, where we can really create a new public building on this space, but one that is intentionally built for the type of project that we're looking to do, rather than try to retrofit a building that is really difficult to retrofit. But why stop there? We could think of even something greater. And could there be a hotel on top of that and really start to frame in the town square? So all of the ideas that you see presented in this plan, whether in this presentation or in the document, you have to think about them as that there's options, but there's design principles and ideas that kind of underpin whatever option happens. The Tech and Talent and Innovation District, this is the Notre Dame project now called Colfax Corner. So the university is bringing over around 400 jobs to downtown and on Colfax Street between Main and Lafayette. And this was an idea in 2024. And today, this idea is coming to reality. I believe ground will break soon on the new building that you see on the right, and the renovations of the former Tribune building also happening shortly. In terms of new neighborhoods, Riverfront West is a new neighborhood that we've been working on. And if we open up your blinds, we can see the work actually happening right now. This is really about prioritizing housing of all income levels in downtown and also activating the riverfront. So we have an area with a lot of excess parking lots, as you can see. This is an urban renewal area where they did the demo but never really followed through on the project itself. And why we think we're different is we're not only are we planning for this, but we have actually got a lot of partners in play already to help develop that vision. And so this is what it looks like today. This is what it could look like tomorrow. And this building on the left is the J.C. Hart project that the demolition of the Southern Crow building is going to replace, and the new street is under construction today as well. So really following through on those ideas to see the reality of what the future of this area can be. Another neighborhood that we're very proud to be working with is the it's called the Western Avenue Transformation District, and this is an area that has had a lot of the public housing sites on it. Most of those on the block called the Monroe Circle and the Rabbi Schulman area have been torn down. But we already are working with the developer to revitalize this area. And so the preservation of housing affordability adjacent to downtown and amenities is an important part of this neighborhood. We will be replacing all South Bend Housing Authority units for one, and add additional workforce and market rate housing as a way to help sort of take an area that had a perception about a place that you don't want to go and turn it into a place that is really connected and part of the downtown. And we want to ensure that people who live in this neighborhood are close to services and jobs that are easily walkable from that housing. And so here's a picture of what Monroe Circle used to look like. And obviously Rabbi Schulman is no longer here or the building. And this is a future idea. And so this is a new park and a new street. We are in design for both the park and the street. So these are engineering contracts that we're moving forward. We're working with people and we're working with the developer to build the housing that you see here. Will it look exactly like this? No, that can have a different style of architecture, but again, the principles of the development carry through. This is a photo from Western Avenue and Taylor and what it could look like in the future. Arts and culture is also a part of this plan, and one of the things that we added after our stakeholder meetings is that we wanted to work with the South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership, who also has put together a regional arts and culture plan. How can these two plans work together as a way for our community to be more competitive for arts and culture grants? With a plan like this being adopted, I think it does give us a little bit of a leg up when it comes to getting these grants, and really looking at how do we utilize and capitalize on some of the cultural assets that we already have in our community and build upon those things. The public realm is a very important part of this. The public realm is actually what stitches all these buildings together. These are the streets, the parks, the plazas. And how can we elevate that public realm to have a great experience as you're out in these places? One place to highlight, we're calling these gateways to downtown. These are Lafayette, Maine, Michigan. I've also picked up United Drive, which has been closed for many years, but we're thinking about reopening that street as another way to create real nice permeability between the north side of the railroad track and the south side, and looking at ways that we can elevate the experience of walking and cycling and moving underneath the rail pass, which today is dark. Even on sunny days, there's water falling on you. I don't know where that water is coming from, but looking at ways that we can make all these places a much safer experience for people, but also then elevate these as gateways to downtown. So you have this sense of arriving when you come to South Bend. This is Lafayette Street today. And looking at ways that we can really add light and art and other things to elevate that experience and make it a welcoming and inviting place to walk through. We don't want people lingering, but we do want people to feel safe to move through the space. Riverfront connectivity, again, one of the major themes of this whole planning process is how do we activate the river? How do we utilize the river? We only have one river. We have limited amount of land along that river, and how can we maximize the value of that? And one way is that continuous riverfront experience that I think everybody would love when we have some of this built, and parts of it that are really nice. But how can we really get the West Bank to be as nice as the East Bank? How can we create some of these walking and continuous walking loops that people could use? Like the Maroon Red Loop is about a mile or just under a mile. So very achievable on your lunch break, for instance. You could walk out of here and do a nice walk. Or after work, maybe that Blue Loop is kind of interesting, and it's almost 2 miles. And so giving people options for this to experience the river, and just be able to get outside, recreate in a healthy way. And this, of course, connects to all sorts of other trail systems that we have in place as well. that both go up and down the river, but also into the neighborhoods around it. In order to help achieve like positive outcomes, built form outcomes, the plan also looks at built form and design standards. So without getting into the details, we look at things like what should retail frontages look like, and what are some of the design principles to help elevate those retail frontages in downtown, or apartments or townhouses. So we have a couple different ways that we show how in new buildings, instead of me having to keep explaining this to developers every time they come, we can have this as a way that we can give this to them as like sort of a plan within a plan to help those people work with us and kind of hopefully get ahead of in their design the sort of expectations that we're looking for in the built form delivery. Also, one of the things to think about too is that we have some beautiful buildings. This is St. Patrick's here shown in the background, but looking at can we look at the way our city's developed where we could, for instance, in this case, push the building back a little bit so sight lines to the church are maintained. They're maintained now because there's nothing built there. But in the future, you could potentially block this view. And I think this is one example of a view that could be maintained as a way for placemaking, but so you kind of understand where you're at because you can see these things in the distance. And it's a beautiful building, and it's something that we'd like to highlight. And if you put the development too close, then you block it off unless you're right next to it. So this is one example of a way to highlight a historic building in our downtown. Every plan has a future zoning map. In this case, the zoning didn't change a ton, but we were looking at how we could take out a few commercially zoned properties as a way to incentivize a higher quality development in our downtown area. And continue to make sure that we preserve the remaining historic character of downtown is an important part of the plan. These are 4 historic principles to preserve buildings, but also help give guidance to the revitalization of these buildings. So we want to bring these buildings back to life, so bringing active uses to historic structures, preserving the original building elements and materials and on damaged facades. You can see that on the Grand Leader building. It's happening right now on Michigan Street. Engaging the public realm with active uses. And when adding new buildings next to historic buildings, looking how we can be sensitive to those historic structures and mindful of things like setbacks and massing and architectural character. And the Encore Center, the Reckler Murphy Encore Center is an example of, I think, a building that complements the buildings around it without sort of being like faux historic. And the map on the right is a series of buildings and parcels that kind of meet that historic character. Union Station, one of those buildings, is a building that the city now owns, and we're looking to bring active transportation back to this building. It's an important historic landmark. We're actively working with Amtrak to reestablish service, and we have, again, engineering contracts looking at how we can rebuild the platforms up on the viaduct and what that will cost and how we will do it. Where do the ramps go? Where do the elevators go? How do we work with both CSX and Norfolk Southern? Never an easy task to do, but so far so good. And also looking at the long-term possibility of the South Shore Station in downtown. So this is something we have talked to Nick D about in recent months, and it is part of their long-term strategy to bring South Shore service to downtown as well as to the airport. So there could be 2 potential stations in South Bend. So where are we 2 years after we started this process? So when Casey talked about planning for success, these are some of the things that were either not started or an idea that was just beginning. The Beacon Patient Tower, you can see the facade is near completion. Madison Lifestyle District, the garage construction will start in the spring of this year. A pedestrian bridge connecting Marion to Madison Street the engineering's complete and the bridge is out to bid. Colfax Bridge is another bridge that the county is rebuilding this year, but the city played a role in making sure that that bridge doesn't look like a highway bridge like it does now. And how can we beautify that, make it safer for people to walk and cycle as well? The Tech and Talent District, the Morris Performing Arts Center, State Theater, City Center Place, the facade restoration, and the Monroe, which had the groundbreaking sort of, I guess, inside the other day. And there's more. I mean, there's a lot of things that have both happened in this 2-year time span, and we're looking forward to more things in the future. So I want to just give a special thanks to all the residents, businesses, and organizations that share their thoughts and vision for the future of downtown South Bend. We couldn't do it without you. Our consulting team here and council and my former director, and Mike DeVita, Angela Rose, who's no longer at the city, but was a senior planner who helped get this through, Chris and Tanya here today. So thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. We look forward to more in-depth again at 7 p.m. We got 3 minutes left in the game. The Lady Irish are up 70, Ohio State 59.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to go to the public at this time. Any members of the public wishing to speak regarding Bill 2608, resolution approving and adopting the downtown 2045 plan. Welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Zach Klonzinski. I'm at 843 South 23rd Street. I'm also kind of speaking on behalf of my wife and my 16-month-old child who are watching online right now. So we're a young family in the River Park neighborhood. We've engaged with downtown South Bend in a variety of ways for the last decade, living here, from eating out, attending shows. I transit via the bus most days going to work. And so just really also wanting to frequent the main library for child and adult programming, emphasis on the child programming especially. We really value the parts of the plan that introduce more third spaces into the downtown area, providing places for community members from all walks of life to connect and enjoy the resources in our area. We particularly like the ideas for Century Center intervention to kind of make the riverfront more connected to downtown area and to better connect the downtown area to East Race, East Bank, really drive that. And we're also appreciative of the emphasis on the need to support multimodal transportation options in the downtown area. There's also been a lot of great detail paid to energizing retail options as well that we really like. So proud to live in South Bend and are grateful for the thought and care going into the plan development process, and we're in support.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. My name is Gwen O'Brien, and I live at 739 North Francis Street in South Bend in Troy's district. And I'm Director of Community Relations at the University of Notre Dame. And I also serve on the DTSB board and have for 3 years, currently serving as Vice Chair. I know Willow couldn't be here this evening, but she submitted her narrative. DTSB, of course, enthusiastically supports the Downtown 2045 plan. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the university, but also as someone who truly loves this city. Notre Dame is fully committed to the Downtown 2045 plan, working with Ancora, an investment firm that specializes in projects connecting universities to their communities. And we've partnered with the city, the state, and local philanthropists to support the Tech and Talent District, including, as Tim was talking about, the first phase, which is known as Colfax Corner. I'm not going to go into all that because it's going to be repetitive to what he just said. On a more personal note, I'm also here as a South Bend resident. 5 years ago, my husband Terry and I moved here from Granger to the Northeast neighborhood because we wanted to be part of the renaissance that we saw happening in the city of South Bend. We aren't the only ones to be feeling that pull. Our eldest daughter and her family recently moved back from Detroit after a magical Thanksgiving in 2024 spent at Potawatomi Zoo and ice skating at Howard Park. So they saw South Bend at that point, even having grown up here, they saw it in a new light, and her husband, and they love the ease of life here, being able to park, walk a few blocks, and meet friends at, say, the St. Patty's Day Parade, which we did a couple of weeks ago. We've all met people lately who are choosing South Bend because they see the momentum, and with the Downtown 2045 plan and partners like Ancora, the best is truly yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen.
My name is Beth Weber. I live at 824 North St. Peter Street, South Bend. And thank you for allowing me to provide testimony. I am a Navy brat. I spent a 20-year career in the Navy. Then I supported my husband in his 33-year career. I have lived across the country, around the world, 9 years overseas. And so I've never really had a hometown until now. And my husband and I moved here in July of 2022. We came to South Bend for a program at Notre Dame. We moved from San Diego, by the way, lived there 5 years, in Japan before that, and Washington, D.C. So I've lived in some really great places. But we thought we would stay a year, and then we decided to stay. Like so many passing through, we decided, we thought that something was really special happening here, and we were really enchanted by the city. And like Tim says, the city has really good bones, but it needs something to stitch it together. And I think this plan just accomplishes just that. I was impressed by the process. Not just the final document and how it was created. I had the opportunity to attend 2 focus groups and 2 report outs. I was involved all along the way. Since then, I've become a committee member on the downtown South Bend because of my enthusiasm. But I really think this plan really represents the countless work of the people, the citizens who care about this city, and a new citizen such as me. So thank you so much for allowing me to comment on this, and I support its endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else, either in person or online, wishing to speak regarding Bill number 2608, the resolution approving and adopting the downtown 2045 plan?
I do not see anyone wishing to speak in favor, any more to speak in favor, and I don't see anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you very much. With that, we're going to bring it to council. I am going to ask folks to hold their comments to 7 p.m. hours. It's already 6. But do we have any questions at this time? All right. I like that. I like it. With that, I would entertain a motion regarding Bill 2608. It's a resolution, so it'll be going to the full council.
I move that Bill 2608 go to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Committee Member Good Rogers.
Aye.
Committee Member Bolden Simpson.
Aye.
Citizen Member Kevin Upton.
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Grape.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White. Aye. Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I know I said it would be over an hour. We're at 2 hours.
Thank you.
But these are all good, very exciting projects we've got going on. I appreciate your time this weekend reviewing the packets and looking everything over. Irish are now up by 12 with a minute left, and we'll go to the Sweet 16. Yay. With that, we'll adjourn, and I'll turn it over to utilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Warner. Would the citizen members of the utility committee, after these great gentlemen leave, just take your seat? Thank you. So at this time, call to order the Utilities Committee. Clerk Toronto, would you,
Committee Member Niskoski. Committee Member McBride.
Present.
Committee Member Dr. Davis.
Present.
Committee Member Good Rogers.
Present.
Citizen Member Doris McElvin. Ekman. Yes. Citizen Member Joseph Mayer. Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan. Committee Chair Bolden Simpson.
Present. Thank you. At this time, we'll have a presentation from Mr. Horvath.
Good afternoon, Council. Sorry.
Yes.
Eric Horvath,
office on the 4th floor of this building. I'm Public Works Director. The bill I'm presenting today is Bill 12-26. This bill mimics an ordinance that the council passed in 2014, establishing a service territory for the utilities. The reason we're bringing it forward today, even though we've passed one since 2014, is that outside counsel had indicated that they thought it would be helpful to clarify the map and the boundaries, and just that there had been some regulatory framework changes that have happened in the state legislature since 2014. So we're bringing this forward. Essentially what this ordinance does is it establishes a geographic territory in which we can provide sewer and water services, utility services, and have exclusive rights to do so. Sorry, there's some feedback. Are you guys okay?
Yeah, we're good.
And so essentially the state statute already gives us authority to serve anything in the city limits and then anything up to a 4-mile boundary outside of the city limits. And this map essentially just establishes what that boundary is, with the exception of obviously on the one side, there's a legal framework that exists between Mishawaka having designated their service territory as well. The city of South Bend and the city of Mishawaka have a long-standing agreement that we would have a divider line on our service territories that is essentially Logan or Hickory to the north and Grass Road to the south. And so otherwise it goes on city boundaries, but anywhere to the north, it's follows Logan. That's the dividing point, and to the south, it's Grass Road. So just to be clear, this is clarifying our authority. It does not mandate service. So what it does is it allows us to have an exclusive right. If a developer wants to develop in an area, they have to first come to the city. We have to try to figure out how we can service that area. If for some reason we choose not to, then they can try to figure out options for other service. But the nice thing about being able to establish a service territory is we do long-term planning. When we're planning out how a sewer is going to serve a certain area of town, we have to size those sewers, we have to size those lift stations. We spend tens of millions of dollars building that infrastructure. We want to make sure that it can serve that area. So what we don't want to do is design and build for a larger area and then find out that we don't have rights to serve that area. And so this will clarify that, and it allows too, I think, for there'd just be a lot more clarity around that, both for citizens, but also developers as they look to develop. They'll know where those boundaries are. They'll know who to go to when there's water, sewer service needs. I don't think I have any other thing to present. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Our Board of Works attorney is here as well, Michael Schmidt, that can help answer any questions if there are any legal questions as well.
Okay, we will take some questions from the committee first. No question?
What's the key difference that you've seen since we did it back in 2014 versus now in 2026 that really led to you saying, hey, this needs to be changed?
It was mostly just to clarify the boundaries and reestablish them because some things changed at IURC in the interim time frame. So once the council passes this, it will have authority, but then this will go to be recorded with the IURC. And IURC then will have jurisdiction if there's a territorial dispute. So let's say, somehow it's not clear about our boundary to Mishawaka, which I think is very clear, but, just hypothetically, the IURC in those cases would rule who has the exclusive rights to serve. But yeah, it's mostly just to make sure that it's clean and we've updated it. It'll also get recodified in our ordinance, so we'll make sure that our municipal code is updated as well with this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there going to be a new map?
Do you guys have the map attached?
Had that and I couldn't tell the difference, so maybe I can study it some more. I
Yeah.
really did.
And
I need
it's,
to
I
compare it.
apologize, it's really hard to see. Like I can blow up the big one.
Okay. We could,
I don't know if I have the ability to do it for tonight, but I'll try. But yeah, we can definitely send you guys a big map that shows, because then it more clearly defines the areas. I maybe I'll do a PDF that I can send you that would, that you could zoom into and see the streets. That might
okay,
be
yes,
more
I did
helpful.
not. That
Yeah.
would help me because I couldn't see the difference between the two maps. Do our citizen
Oh.
members have?
One thing I will, sorry, I should have said this, but
Go ahead.
there's the light blue and the dark blue area on the map.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, the dark blue area is outside of that 4-mile service area. But because we have sewer and water service agreements with the county to service this area, that also then gives us contractual rights to serve those areas. So that's what that dark blue area. It doesn't have the state authority per se, but it has contractual obligation or contractual rights.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Now we can take some comments from the public. Clerk Torado, do you see anyone in the chambers or on the or on teams that want to speak in favor?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Are there any persons online or person who would like to speak against?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. Any other comments, committee members? Okay, committee members, what's your pleasure?
Motion to bring to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second?
It's been motion and second to bring to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Torado, would you take a roll?
Committee Member Niskoski,
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Committee Member Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Citizen Member Doris McEwen, Citizen Member Joseph Mayer,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Chair Bolden Simpson,
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, we'll go to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation. I'd like to thank my citizen members, Ms. Doris McEwen and Mr. Joseph Mayer for coming, and we are adjourned. Irish.
We will now commence the zoning and annexation committee. I'd like for our citizen members to come. They've been patiently waiting. I appreciate you back there. I see you.
Yes. You want
Oh, yeah,
to
you can see it.
put this one up? Okay. So let me. Is it the glare? Okay.
All righty. Make sure, Mike, you all can hit the green button right there. So when you talk, did you see that green button there on yours? So when you, come in, you can do it. Okay, cool. We'd like for our clerks to please take the roll, and we do have both of our citizen members here.
Committee
so-
Member White,
Present.
Committee Member Warner,
Present.
Citizen Member Danny Coons,
Here.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom,
Present.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan,
Present.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis,
I'm present.
all present.
Thank you. We have bill number 1326, amending the zoning ordinance for a property located at 911 Logan Street. And we are ready for our presentation.
Yeah, Chair, that petitioner's not here yet. Is it okay if we switch the items?
Yeah, so flipping them around and give them a
We'll
little
flip
bit
them.
more time.
He should be here. in about-
Are they coming?
They are, I just spoke with them. They are coming.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Let's
should
flip
be
it around if you don't mind. Do we need a vote on that or can we just do that? We just can go ahead and go over that, right?
Yeah.
Let's go for it. Go to our update for zoning ordinance amendment review.
Brian Killen, zoning administrator, fifth floor, City Hall. I'll be giving the updates.
Okay.
Let me just flip through the rezoning. So as a commitment from the zoning office for incremental small changes, smaller package of changes to the zoning code, we're putting any updates on what I like to call spring and fall cycles. So I'll be giving you a preview. This is not the full text. We'll be giving you that text and a summary of changes hopefully at the end of the week. This is just a preview of the things we're looking to change or proposing to change. So again, this is all spring cycle 2020. It actually has two different changes that are running parallel. The first one, we just really want to make you aware of it. It's not a zoning change. It's not changing chapter 21, but we realize there are a number of chapters that still are using really outdated references to older zoning code. So our staff, we did a look at the other chapters and we found that chapters 3, 4, 6, 13, 14, 17, 5, and 9 were all outdated. We've worked with legal to put together packages of those 3, 4, 6, 13, 14, and 17 that we'll be bringing forward to council as one of the updates. So that'll be one package. Again, chapters 5 and 9 also need to be updated, but they have their own updates that are being managed by their owner agency. There are no changes to the intent of the rules. They're just bringing those into agreement. Here's a couple examples. They're mainly around changing the districts to match the current zoning districts. For example, instead of saying SF1, which is county district, it'll say S1 neighborhood, suburban neighborhood. We're also realizing there's some actual zoning code in the other chapters. We didn't want zoning code. We didn't want it to be duplicative. So we only want zoning code to be referenced in the chapter 21. So in some instances, like in this example for, I believe this was public safety, we're just making a reference to chapter 21 instead of actual having zoning language in there. So again, not a zoning change, but we're driving this in order to make sure that things are in agreement across the municipal code. Okay, that's one package. And then package 2 is really chapter 21. We're bringing what we'd like to call a package of quick fixes. They're not really major there are substantive changes, but they're not major changes to, we're not creating new rules. We're revising rules or providing clarification. And you've seen this before. We really like to put our zoning changes into 4 buckets: ease of development, trying to reduce the need for variances, modernizing the code, and then ordinance maintenance. Most of these quick fixes are ordinance maintenance. You can see here, there are actually only 12 changes to code being made in terms of rules. Most of the changes are what I like to call a group of minor changes, where there's 47. And then altogether, there's 75 lines of citation that are changing. So you can see here in the graph, and then this is what I'll provide in a larger summary document that I'll email to you. But this gives you an idea of the 12 or 13, but there's 12 changes, and then there's one large change of minor text clarifications. Now I'll give you some examples. So in terms of ease of development, we're looking at this particular, we get a lot of requests for what we like to call corner stores or small retail. A lot of those requests where we want to activate maybe underutilized or vacant commercial or mixed use parcels or properties, they have to go through a special exception. And that we felt that was a bit of a barrier for these smaller, we're talking less than, for a restaurant, we're talking less than 2,000 square feet. So it really is that activating that corner store or small retail that would be along a node or along a business corridor. We're requesting special exception to be removed. And so by right, retail service general, and then restaurant by right, if it's 2,000 square feet or below. Anything above that, you can see from the pictures, like these two on the left, there's both small corner types of, those are actually both restaurants. compared to a larger restaurant like Yellow Cat, which has the need for parking, it has a bigger space, that would still require special exception, that type of use versus a more of a corner store. In terms of ease of development, we're also looking at where can we improve the requirements around ADUs. We're trying to make two minor changes to this building standards for ADUs. One would be if you have say a 1 or 1.5 story principal structure like a bungalow, currently you're prohibited from creating a carriage house in the back. So a garage with a unit over top. We're changing the rule, proposing to allow for ADUs to be taller than the home that might be on a property. We're proposing that in this, well, you can see in this picture, this ADU is set to the front of the street, but you imagine this unit would be more interior to a block. We're proposing that it would not be required to have a frontage unless it's fronting the street. So those are, I think, two manageable changes we think might help with ADU production in the city. This is the very minor change. A gallery type frontage is where you have this balcony and then you have a second elevated balcony on the front. Currently, under our rules, this scenario is prohibited, and this particular structure had to go through a variance to allow to have a second story gallery frontage on the home. We just feel like it's a very in terms of what do you call it? Street, sorry, curb appeal. I couldn't think of it. It's been a long meeting so far. Thank you. Curb appeal. So again, that's one minor change in terms of just the frontage style that we're allowing on a building by right. Another change, we actually, a developer asked us about this particular change in U2, the story limit is 2.5 stories. So and again, after talking to developers, they were requesting it. In some spaces, it makes more, in some building types, it makes more sense to be able to fill out the 2.5 stories to go to 3 stories. So in U2, we're proposing that apartment houses, if they're under 30 feet, like in the style of apartment house shown in the picture, they could go to 3 stories in order to maximize the units in U2. We also get a lot of variances about building width. So we're proposing to move that out of building the BZA and allow the zoning administrator with conditions and with meeting the intent of the ordinance to allow for longer buildings given well-designed buildings. You can see here Parisi's on the left and then Heartwood is on the right. They both required variances, but they're hyphenated or segmented buildings because they were too long. This one came up about modernizing code. For equity reasons, we wanted drive-throughs to be able to be accessed or some type of, whether it's a food business or other type of retail, for non-motorized access. So on foot, bicycle, or other non-motorized vehicle forms to access a business. So we're proposing a change in drive-through facility standards. It can be through multiple ways. It could be a specific window for pedestrians, or it could be a spot where that person, or even if you're on a bike, would stay and someone would come out and deliver the food through an app or something. But we thought it's an equitable way to provide service, access to other retail businesses if you don't have a car. And lastly, there's a laundry list of things here we're proposing to change, including tweaking the definition of accessory parking lot to make to allow you to have a business. Say your parking lot was 200 feet away, it would give you access to an accessory parking lot that wasn't on your parcel or adjacent. We're clarifying that the amenity space could only be for certain building types. We're also allowing for larger vehicles like buses or vans to be in residential properties overnight. This was specifically for like group houses when they need that method of transportation, similar to school buses. a couple of changes to residential properties, allowing or requiring for cooler temperature lights. We get a lot of complaints about light brightness or the harshness of outdoor lights. So we're adding that requirement, as well as screening of mechanical equipment. Again, these two are already required for units of 5 or more. We're just requesting to apply those to all residential properties. And then the last 3 are really just updating cross references to landscaping. There's a dozen or so of those, making small clarifications to diagrams so they're more understandable. We're changing one picture, and then we're doing a lot of minor wording revisions just to add clarity to the code. Moving forward, we're looking at a timeline. We'll be providing a summary of changes in the text amendment to the code, to the council and the plan commission by email. I'll be doing that hopefully in the next week. And then happy to set up any meeting or to talk with the council members if you have questions about the content of that. Otherwise, we're looking for a plan commission public hearing on 4/20 and then a council public hearing on 4/27. So we're hoping to looking to have these two, the Muni code update and then the quick fix update, hopefully effective by the end of April, early May. We're looking forward to fall 26. We have 2 updates. One to the sign ordinance. We're just taking a look. Maybe we can refresh the sign ordinance code. We're not looking to make any major changes there, but just see where we can improve sign language. And then we're also meeting with the Northeast Neighborhood Revitalization Organization to talk about their overlay, to see where we can maybe bring improvements there. And we've been working with them on that. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I do appreciate the fact that you're going to provide a summary of changes to the council and send them, because I think that's helpful. Oftentimes, we've gotten a lot of changes.
Yeah, so those will be a shorter
summary-
list of
The
changes.
summary basically comes from the presentation and not necessarily from here. And so to have that ahead of time,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be helpful for us, because it will give us a better rationale of why you wanted to make those changes, and to be able to communicate with you what would happen if we don't, or what happens if we make the changes. The benefits and the cost for each one of those gives us a better understanding of that. So I appreciate you being able to. Do you know when you will have that summary to us?
I've been working on it, so my goal is by the end of this week.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be very good. And then that gives us some time to review that, and then to even call you even ahead of time before the meeting to get some clarity about
Absolutely.
that. And so I really appreciate that part of it. And then the public hearing 4/20, and then 4/27 at the council meeting there. So that's I think it's a reasonable time frame. And I'd like to thank you for in the past we had everything come up to that long list of all these things at one time.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're breaking them up in segments. And that helps us to be able to focus on individual issues instead of having the long list.
Right.
So thank you for that. Do you have any, are you finished your presentation?
I'm finished, and
Okay. Any questions regarding the presentation that he has? We have this timetable. He's going to send us the summary, hopefully by the end of this week. Then we can have a chance to look at them. Please send them not only to our council members, but also to our citizen members, so they can also review it also. And that would be helpful, and give their contact the same way with us. And so when we come to our meetings, we could have more. Any questions that you all have from citizen members to our members of our council? 1, 2, I can't see. This way, no? Okay, all right. And you all good? Okay, so,
I'm going to switch back to the petitioner.
is the petitioner back?
He is here. Yep.
Okay, you walked in.
Yeah.
Praises.
Right.
Wonderful.
I'm going to switch back to his rezoning request.
Go ahead, make his presentation, and then we'll hear from you.
All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mark. He's going to lead that one.
Thanks, Brian. Good evening, committee members. Mark Delastrito, zoning specialist with the City of South Bend, with offices on the 5th floor of this building. This is bill number 13-26, a petition by the owner of 911 Logan Street to rezone the property from NC Neighborhood Center to UF Urban Neighborhood Flex. So here is a picture of the site as it exists today. As you can see, the structure has a residential appearance, although it is a mixed-use building with beauty salon occupying the ground floor since at least 2007 and residential use on the second floor. It was built in 1915 and was actually being used as mixed use going back to 1917, according to this map from that year. However, the petitioner wishes to convert the structure into a 1 or 2 unit dwelling, so a single family home or a duplex. In order to do so, they would have had to apply for either a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals or rezoning. This is because the property is currently zoned NC, a district that, in order to promote and preserve mixed-use development and ground floor storefronts, does not allow for structures with retail use on the primary street to be converted into a 1 or 2 unit dwelling with residential space located along that primary street. In this instance, staff thought it was appropriate for the petitioner to pursue the rezoning to urban neighborhood flex for a few different reasons. First, a 1 or 2 unit dwelling makes sense on this site generally. Besides the structure already having a residential appearance, as you can see from this visual here, across Logan Street, which is actually in Mishawaka, and to the south of the property, the land use is predominantly low density residential, meaning that this new use would be contextually appropriate. Although the most recent draft of the forthcoming River Park Neighborhood Plan does show this property staying NC in the future zoning map, UF would also provide a step down in potential development intensity from the NC properties along Mishawaka Avenue towards the north there to the U1 residential parcels to the south. Finally, it would allow the petitioner or future owner of the property to do this conversion of use that is being requested without a variance, while still allowing for additional residential units or some retail uses if they desire in the future. And this could make sense on the property considering the proximity to that Mishawaka Ave commercial corridor. So this petition comes to the council with a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from our committee or from our citizen members? Any questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas?
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I guess first of all, in fairness to her and myself, is I don't know what UF and NC means, okay? Nobody has shared that information with us. Do you
That's a
know
good
the
point.
difference between any of those? So that was one of my questions, and I've been in this situation before with my prior experience, but zoning in Mishawaka and here is different. But that's one question I'd like to have answered. And then the second is, I read the last line from the analysis. And so if it's going to be used for apartment, but still can have a favorable use for business, what are we accomplishing here?
What do you mean? Sure.
Well, how is it zoned now? What's the uses it can have now? I went and looked at the property. It looks like you have an apartment on one side and you had a beauty salon on the other, correct?
Yes, and I think the petitioner can maybe provide a few more details on the layout of the building. But yeah, happy to provide a bit more detail on what those zoning districts involve. And we can also get some additional materials to you if that'd be helpful as well.
About parking, if you had 2 units there for, say, apartments, okay? Is parking adequate? Is there any regulations for parking or how many spaces you have to have?
There used to be, but in 2020, when the city overhauled the zoning ordinance, we actually got rid of all parking minimums. So there are no parking requirements for any building or land use. But yeah, in this context, so our neighborhood center zone, NC, it's primarily intended for mixed use development. So, kind of in an urban context, so on a street like Mishawaka Avenue, with kind of that ground floor retail space, and if it's a multi-story building, typically residential on top. And so yeah, so obviously that's what the property is currently zoned, and the petition here is to rezone it to urban neighborhood flex, which is very similar. Again, kind of more of an urban zone intended for mixed use, but it's typically found maybe in kind of more of a neighborhood on a corner, kind of for a little more of your corner store retail or small deli, something like that. And so in this case, staff thought it was appropriate because it's, this property is not on Mishawaka Avenue, but it's still relatively close by to it. So it could make sense maybe to have a few residential units on this lot. It could also make sense to have it be single family like the petitioners may be interested in, considering, the homes around it. But it could be a nice maybe transitional zone from when you're coming off of Mishawaka Avenue. Maybe there's a small commercial space in there if the petitioner would like, or it could just be a single family home. This would basically give them more options than the current zoning district would allow.
What's the benefit to the neighbors, to the neighborhood itself? Because Logan is all residential except for this one property.
Yeah, so I think in this context, this is a down zoning, so it's kind of UF allows for less things in some ways than NC does. So in this context, it does allow for the petitioner to do a single family home or a duplex like they're intending without a variance, where if they'd kept the current zoning, they would have needed the variance. Because like I said, the district is kind of intended for that ground floor retail.
Can you give me a couple examples of what the softer uses can be for commercial?
I guess maybe it's the allowable commercial uses. There's less of those, I guess, is kind of the main difference. And NC, there's in the neighborhood center zone that it currently is, there's less setbacks, and it's kind of intended more for really, on the sidewalk, ground floor residential. UF, again, it's a little more kind of for within neighborhoods and in slightly more residential areas. And again, you can do less commercial uses than you can in neighborhood center.
But what I'm asking you is, for an example, can it be a grocery store? Can it be a gas station? Be a cleaners, retail of what kind?
Yeah, I guess I think vehicle sales, for example, is something that you could do in neighborhood center, but you can't do in an urban neighborhood flex, like a used car dealership, for example. That's one example that you can do in the purple, but not in the zone that they're hoping to switch to.
Well, yeah, I understand that. The lot's what, 40 foot wide or 60?
Yeah, it's a smaller lot for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Is there a time that they have to close? What about the time regulation since there's the mixed use, the business?
Sorry, could you repeat that question? Sorry.
If when they have a mixed use, will there be a time regulation? Can they operate all night, or what would they be able to do?
So I guess I should clarify maybe and again, the petitioner can provide some more details, but at the moment, I believe their plan is just to pursue either to convert the residence, the building into a single family home or a duplex. UF would just allow for potentially commercial space to go in there in the future. If your future owner of the property wanted to do that. In terms of those requirements, I don't believe we have any time restrictions at the moment for businesses in that district. But again, that's just kind of a hypothetical thing of if someone wanted to do that in the future, this district would still allow for that.
Is that something that we should consider when people look at the possibility of having a business there, so that they will have some regulations of when and how they can operate? I know a lot of times we work in online now, so it's a whole different ballgame. But when you are actually servicing the public, and it's 10, 11 o'clock at night, or whatever. I know we had some discussions about this again. It was one a zoning issue last year. But what are we going to do with those kind of things? Do they have to come back to us, or are we giving them abilities to do that right now? And since we vote today and they put in something that goes to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, there's nothing we can do because we already voted it. What's the thoughts?
Yeah, so certainly something we can discuss. Obviously, we're kind of doing our quick fixes at the moment, and our intention is to keep doing those over time. So it's certainly something we can discuss. Yeah.
The only reason with the quick fix, we don't normally go back on the businesses that we've already approved. So a quick fix that's something we would fix in April or later on this year, would not fix for this.
Yeah, that might potentially be a legal non-conforming thing of yeah, older businesses might not be subject to that, but yeah, it's certainly something we can talk about internally.
You seem like you want to say something, Mr. Scott?
I'm still like Darrell Scott, office on the sixth floor here. Currently, there are no restrictions. Only thing would be like noise violations and stuff like that if a business were to move into that space. Well, under UF, excuse me, not currently, but under UF, noise restrictions, things like that would impact the business, so they have to limit their activity if they were making noise or anything like that. But other than that, there's no restriction in UF.
Okay. I see that. I just, I'm thinking about it. And when people have businesses at that time of night, I mean, I think that's something that we may have to look at in the future. It's nothing in place now, but as we look at revising our zoning, it's something that we may just put out there and to see if it's necessary. It may not be, but I think it's worth having a discussion about it as we look at situations like this as people plan to have businesses where there's a lot of residents. Yeah, my point for that is? Okay. I hear something down on the side of me.
Chair, I'm wondering, should we listen to the petitioner?
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to him. But since he's here, I'm at peace. And so I know we're running behind, but at the same time, I gotta ask the questions. All right, thanks. Next, we have our petitioner.
First,
You
I
state your name
apologize
and
for-
address, and just state your name and address and share what your plans are.
My name's Evan Forsland and my address is 1650 South Bend Avenue, South Bend.
Okay,
I
thank you.
apologize for being a little late today.
I understand. Let's continue.
And my intended use for the property is 2 units, 1 unit downstairs, 1 upstairs, which there's already an apartment upstairs. There's already a kitchen downstairs. There's already a bathroom downstairs. There's 4 parking spots in the driveway. And it was a salon. I had 4 hairstylists there and at some point they were all there with customers. So they're all parked all along Logan Street and people parking like in the alley occasionally sometimes too. So there's going to be a lot less cars and visitors on the property now. And a little more practical in my eyes in this type of zoning.
When do you plan to have everything complete?
Probably within the month. There's
Okay.
there's not a whole lot of work needing done there. There's 2 separate HVAC systems already in place for the downstairs and upstairs. So just build a wall really for a bedroom.
Cool.
The building's in pretty good shape.
It is. We now have questions from the committee or from they are part of the committee, our council people or our citizens. We would like to now ask questions to our petitioner. Go ahead.
When I viewed the property today, I noticed in the rear yard area there's a hole about 24 inches in diameter. It looks like it goes down like to some kind of drain or sewer or something at one time. Can you tell
I'm
me?
actually not sure what that is.
Hmm.
The little
Own the
hole.
property?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. That's good. Any other questions? Any other concerns?
I don't have any questions, just a quick comment. I just want to thank you for this. In some of our urban neighborhoods, I live in one of those, especially when you have U1 right there. I think the Urban Flex is just a really nice bridge into, more higher density and commercial. So I'm all for downgrading zoning.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Therefore, if seeing nothing else, any other questions? Anybody? We will now have to go to, that's all for our presentation.
Okay.
We need to go to a public hearing. Anybody from the public would like to speak in favor, whether you're online or in present?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in person or online would like to speak in opposition?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Okay, we will close the public hearing and we'll come back for any final questions, thoughts, comments, or a recommendation.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Can we have give us a roll call?
Committee Member White,
Aye.
Committee Member Warner, Citizen Member Danny Coons,
Aye.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Chair Dr. David.
Aye, thank you so kindly. And we've already covered the update zoning ordinance amendment review. That's coming up in April for all those changes. And so we are adjourned. Thank you for being here and thank you all for coming. I appreciate your questions and thank you for participating.
I would ask staff if you could send the zoning ordinance to our citizen members and then offer to sit down with them and go through it. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you, Councilman Troy Warner.
Since the hour has grown late, Clerk Toronto, we will not do the informal. And we will see everybody at 7 o'clock. Thank you.